Greetings and welcome to the Quest for Wisdom podcast, where we search for nuggets of wisdom from the lives of some truly amazing people. Today's guest is Katerina Parimon. Katerina was a political advisor for different political candidates in Israel, starting with right-wing, then moving to centre, then left, and finally completing the circle back at right-wing. She used her heart and moral compass to try and steer her candidates towards equality and compassion. Outside of politics, she has worked for various public projects and NGOs, including People's Voice, where 1 million Palestinians and 1 million Israelis signed a peace initiative to demonstrate that the people do not hate each other nor want war and conflict. She now works as an IT professional and is a stand-up comedian and dancer in her spare time. Today we speak about Israel, Palestine, terrorism, and Katerina's career progression into a political advisor. Katerina is a fascinating human with real-world experience in the politics of a controversial country, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. To find Katerina, please check out the links in the description and make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. Welcome, Katerina Parimon, to the 12th episode of the Quest for Wisdom podcast. How does that make you feel?
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, first of all. It makes me feel amazing.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here. So you are a comedian, you are a human, you are also an ex-political advisor to political parties in Israel. Is that correct?
That is very correct.
Okay. So I am very, very interested to talk to you. And I know that people I've spoken to are also very interested to get some real world insight into what the hell is going on in Israel. Because it's a topic that we hear a lot, especially in the West, in England, in America. It's spoken about all the time. Israel-Palestine, Israel-Palestine, Israel-Palestine. Some people hate on Israel, some people hate on Palestine. And I, for one, feel very confused because Israelis, I think, get a bad name. And when I say that, I'm not saying that bombing people is right or anything, but what I'm saying is that there's plenty of people who are not doing that, who are just ordinary citizens who are just trying to live their life and may not necessarily agree with what their government is doing. So can you tell us, how did you get into advising for political candidates in Israel?
I would actually like to start a bit earlier.
Yeah, okay.
Before that, not earlier in my life, earlier in your question making.
My big long question.
Yeah, big long question, yeah, because the way you ask this question is exactly portraying the way most Europeans feel about Israel. And there is both a hypocrisy, kind of double standards, and a bias, which is so deep that I don't even know if it's possible to deal with it in our lifetime or ever. For example, you were saying, and I know that you want to learn about it, you want to hear about it, you are trying to be as unbiased as possible, as very few people also try to be that, right? Or many people try to be educated on the topic. And yet you said, some people do this, some people do that, but we know, after all, Israeli might be nice people. We don't agree with bombing, so you already placed Israel as the bombing side, and then Palestine as the underdog side, right?
Oh, no, if I was speaking with a Palestinian, I would also say we don't agree with bombing, because both people are doing that.
Okay, then it's my bad.
Yeah. So bombing is not very nice. Let's just get that on the table in general. It's not a very nice thing to do. Maybe it's necessary in some cases. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But if you could paint us a little bit of a picture of your thoughts on it and how you got into politics.
In fact, my own journey was really not intended. It was all coincidental, and I'm very happy that it happened. I was going to study law in Tel Aviv University, but my roommate at the time just robbed my apartment, left with all the stuff, including my applications, which made me. And then, of course, I didn't send it until the very last moment, so it's my fault. But after this robbery, when I went to get applications again I was told that the acceptance process is just closed. So I went to any place that was still open, which turned out to be the very best place, which is Reichman University. It's very prestigious private college that now is university. And this is the best place to study and to get your network, to get your connections, which I had no idea about at the time. But I'm very happy that unknowingly I got into this environment. And in my second year of studies, I was called by my classmates who already was working with politics and in different campaigns to work on an election campaign.
Ah, so just to pause there for a second, what do you think the education system is like in Israel? Is it free, for example, in university?
No, it's not free, but it's not as bad as in the States. I haven't been to the States, but from what I hear, that people keep having student loan debts until they die on few generations. That doesn't happen in Israel. You can have many programs of scholarships. You can go to colleges which are more expensive, to private college which is more expensive. You can go to university which is not that expensive. It's not free, unfortunately, but it's absolutely possible to work part-time as whatever young jobs you do and to study.
Okay, so it's accessible for people if they want to go, basically.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So then when you were your roommate, your roommate, and she invited you to come along to work with her or for an interview?
Yes, to work with her.
Oh, okay.
I was against it. I kept telling her that I have no idea what it's about. I've never done politics. I wasn't sure who was the prime minister, and I had no interest in going there. I had only interest to go study law, become a criminal lawyer, get the good guys out of jail, bad guys in jail. You know, this idealistic view.
Oh yeah, so you wanted to be like the good lawyer fighting for justice.
Exactly.
And where do you think your sense of justice came from?
Soviet childhood.
Soviet childhood?
Yes.
Oh, where did you grow up?
I was born in Ukraine, in the Soviet Union then. I came to Israel when I was a child. And I guess this whole system didn't seem very just at the time. And coming to Israel actually made me realize that it can be different. And it can be different for the better way. What is real democracy? What is a place with laws? How does it look when everything functions I'm not saying it functions perfectly. We're not Switzerland. But at least there is law and people follow law. And there is, there used to be a law. Now we don't know what's going to happen in the next year or so, right?
Yeah. So your parents are Ukrainian?
Yes.
And Ukrainian is your mother tongue?
I speak Russian.
Oh, you speak Russian? Okay. Yeah. Oh, and then so what? Then you came to Israel and learned Ivrit when you were younger?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I arrived middle school.
Ah. What was that like then arriving there? And why Israel?
Because we're Jews. That's the place to go. My grandparents were there. My uncles were there already.
And was there discrimination in Ukraine for Jews at that time?
Yeah, my mom suffered her whole life. She was a very talented musician. And she couldn't get accepted to conservatorium for 5 years in a row. They were telling her, we have a quota for one Jew, and that's not you this year.
Oh, shit. So then they wanted a better life for you then, basically.
Of course.
And they picked Israel. Because what I find interesting about Israel is that, people talk about America being, a modern country that was founded, 300 years ago or whenever it was. Probably Americans out there screaming at me, telling me the exact date. I don't know, sorry. I think it was in the 1700s sometime. But then Israel, founded, I think, in 1948, which is crazy because that means it's like 75 years old, which is nothing. And obviously when you're late to the party in terms of joining starting a country, you get to see what all the other countries have done wrong. And you get to try and avoid that. And I found it very interesting. I was reading a book called The Culture Map by Erin Meyer, which is a really cool book. It's about this lady. She basically goes into different businesses and helps businesses that have got multicultural people, so multinational companies. She helps them do business like cross-country or even within the organization. So how do you get a Japanese company to do business with a German company, or like an Israeli company to do business with a Canadian company or something? And Israel is challenging for a lot of countries in the West to do business with because Israel is very horizontal. It's one of the most egalitarian societies in the world, which I thought was interesting because you don't necessarily think of it being like that because of the Troubles and because also of the different religious conflicts and the different tribes within there, and you get the Orthodox people, and there's a lot of crazy different opinions and different scales of religion, basically. And so I thought that was interesting that it's very horizontal, and I wondered why, if you could think of any reasons why it might be horizontal in that way. And when I say horizontal, I mean that without a vertical hierarchy. So I am the worker, above me is a manager, above that manager is their manager, and then you have a regional manager, and then you have a like a director, and then you have a CEO, and all these, like, which is very common in American companies, German companies, UK companies and things. But in Israel, from what I understand, it's different to that. Any thoughts?
There could be a few reasons for that. I would say it starts with the language.
Mm-hmm.
In Israel, in Hebrew, you don't have any vu, right? So you don't have, in English, you don't have any tu. I'm just trying to take it now from French because there is no equivalent in English. So Hebrew is a very informal language. You speak to your CEO or you speak to the dean of university the same way you would speak to your classmate. Sure, you might cut out some words or phrases, but in a structure, you do not have this very formal appeal to somebody. I believe that starts with that, and it continues to Israel, as you said, being a multicultural country.
Mm-hmm.
When it was established, the idea was to make a melting pot of cultures and to blend them into this one cultural identity that would be sort of rough on the outside, soft and sweet on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't necessarily happen. What happened is the multiculturalism. Everybody comes from somewhere else. Their parents are from elsewhere. Their grandparents are from elsewhere. Everybody's bringing their traditions, their understanding of worlds, and their ideas and opinions. And of course, it's a very tough region. And you need to strive. To strive, you really need to be strong. You need to be with ideas because there is not much to do with agriculture, as you might imagine. So I think both the region and the language together shaped this reality where you have to be strong with your own opinions and what you want to do. So you can see it both in, as you say, it's more, there are less hierarchy, much more informal and laid back, but also you can see technology is such a growing industry because of that as well. Because you need to, in order to come up with a startup, you need to question existing beliefs and existing ways. When you're taught something in university, you have to go and say, this is amazing, but I have another idea and I'm going to pursue it. And that's the way you both strive in this region and become a tech nation.
Yeah, that's very interesting points. And I think that I've always found Judaism and like the Jewish diaspora so fascinating because you have the religion which unites, but then those people, like you say, will grow up in a different culture. Like you've grown up in Soviet Union, Ukraine, then you've gone to Israel. Maybe you have someone who's grown up in Colombia, and then they end up going to Israel. And all these people, obviously, they share a core part of their identity, but then the rest of their culture is totally different because they've grown up with that. And like I had an experience which I'd never thought of it like this before. When I was actually in Colombia, I was in a youth hostel, and I heard these people talking. And I was like, are you speaking in Hebrew? And they said, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'd never heard people speaking in Hebrew before to each other, or Ivrit, I suppose. I don't know if it's Hebrew or Ivrit, but... and then I was like, oh, what are you doing tonight? And they said they were going to... I can't remember what the name of it is, but they were going to... It was a Friday, and they were going to like this meetup of where the other Jews from all around the world who happen to be in Medellin, Colombia, they all just go there and they meet up with each other. And I thought it was like really, at first I thought it was weird because I was like, you know, it's like me going to another country and meeting up with loads
Shabbat,
of...
Shabbat, right?
Probably, yeah, Shabbat. And then they said that they go there and they get like a dinner and people and they chat to all these other people. But I thought it was weird because we don't have something similar. But then I also thought it was really interesting that...
You can go to a pub.
Yeah, you can go to a pub, but you'd have to go
and talk to other Irish people, you know. British people, like, you know, you could just go to a pub. You also have this tradition every Friday or just every day.
Every day, yeah.
And you can meet like similar-minded people and talk about it.
Yeah, but the difference is that if you go to an Irish pub in Colombia, those people will be Irish from Ireland, probably. Whereas if you go to
You
the
won't have
Shabbat,
Irish from Colombia, okay.
yeah.
I
Whereas
get
if you
it.
go to Shabbat, then the people could be from anywhere,
Yeah.
but they share this identity and they're all meeting in this place. To,
That's very unique.
This
That's
guy is
true.
extremely unique
Yeah.
because even like it, even with Muslims in Islam, they share Fusha, which is the modern standard Arabic, which they learn the Quran in, but then they have their own dialects in their own countries. But I would say that their culture, from what I've seen and understand, I could be totally wrong, but their culture is more similar than Colombia and Ukraine, for example. But you would have the religion that shares the Colombian Jew and the Ukrainian Jew, whereas the Iraqi Muslim and the Moroccan Muslim, their cultures might be a little bit different, but not hugely different. So I just think it's super interesting. But that's
Also, I'm not an expert on religion, as you might imagine. I do like this Shabbat tradition because it's great. And when I go to Israel, I'm with my parents there. We're going to have this Shabbat dinner. I can just crush any of my friends' Shabbat dinner. It's very common. In Israel, we like to eat. And it's very encouraged and generous. Also, like, I think it's Jewish thing around the world. Just come there and you'll be fed and you'll have Shabbat prayers and it's a really beautiful moment. I love it a lot. But having said that, there is a huge difference between Jews from European countries and from African countries.
Okay.
In Israel, you have two institutions for religion. One is for European Jews, which is Ashkenazi, and one for Middle Eastern African Jews, which is Sephardi.
So Ashkenazi Jews it just means European.
Yes.
What was the other one?
Sephardic.
Sephardic.
Which is kind of Sephardi, which is Spanish, but it's not really Spanish, it's the rest of it.
Okay. And so on the Friday you have the Shabbat, and Shabbat is like Sabbath. So in Christianity, Sabbath is the Sunday. But then isn't it not from Shabbat on Friday until Saturday?
Jewish calendar is lunar calendar. So it goes from sunset to sunset. And Shabbat is basically from Friday evening until Saturday evening. So everything opens again in Saturday evening, and you can go if you need shopping or whatever you need. But Friday evening is the time that you spend with your friends and family. And by religion, this is the day that it needs to be celebrated in order to separate work week, where you do business, you do things. It's you're working, you're into some mode, and between the rest, where
Can
you have
come
to
a little
relax.
bit closer to the microphone?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
between when you need to take a rest, relax, think about God, or your hobbies, your family, spend time with your family. So this is the day that is the holiest, and this holiday is most important. So that's why it's so celebrated so differently.
Yeah, and I heard that the stricter, well, I suppose you're not supposed to use technology
Yes.
on Shabbat, are
It's
you?
not just technology. You cannot do anything that
Anything work.
ignites work, which includes a lighter for a cigarette, a button on the elevator, tearing toilet paper in the bathroom. They tear it in advance and leave the light open or with a timer. But this is harder, stricter Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, because I thought that was, I think that's such a cool idea. It's such a cool concept that, and I keep saying it to my girlfriend, like, right, once a month we'll do no technology, because I'm always in work mode, always, because I love it. I'm always thinking of like my job, or I'm thinking of my podcast, or I'm thinking of like my projects or writing or something. I'm always 100% of the time thinking of that. So it would be really challenging for me to not do that. And I spent, a couple of years ago, I spent a couple of days where I did silence days, where I just went about doing my normal stuff without speaking and without doing anything. And to try and kind of like emulate a little bit of that, to try and like separate and to try and learn how to not need to talk all the time. Because I used to talk incessantly. Now I'm much calmer overall, and I do all my talking during my podcast.
But digital detox sounds really great. You should try it.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
just for one day a month. You can make it every second weekend or something like that.
We'll start slow. We'll start slow with one.
Jump into it.
Yeah, jump into it.
Take a week, go to an island.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And at some point, maybe this year or at some point, I want to do the Vipassana, the 10-day silence retreat. I've wanted to do it for ages, where you go and all you do for 10 days is meditate. no talking, no writing, no technology, no anything. Just meditate and I think do a bit of yoga and stuff in like a retreat. That's the plan. I really want to do that because I know
I really want to meet you the day after you did it.
Yeah, I think it'd be life-changing. I know a lot of people that have done it, and one of my friends, he said it's the best thing he's ever done. And I know another lady that's done it a couple of times. But it's just, it's teaching yourself discipline for one. It's teaching yourself to get out of your head and get into your body and get into just learning to calm yourself down. It's like, it's mastery. It's getting used to mastery of your body. And there's actually... my favorite Israeli, I would say. Are you familiar with Yuval?
I thought I was your favorite Israeli.
Yeah. I mean, you're a Ukrainian Israeli now. I know that.
I'm Israeli,
Okay.
more than Ukrainian. Yeah.
But are you familiar with Yuval Noah Harari?
Of course.
Yeah, the biggest. He's an absolute legend.
Okay, I can't compete with that one.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, you could be my second favorite.
Okay, I'll take that. Only if Yuval is on the first place.
Yeah, he's so cool. Like, I've read people that maybe they don't know, like Homo Deus and Sapiens and
Lessons of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but 21 Laws for the 21st Century.
Yeah.
And I've listened to loads of his stuff, but he was saying that he meditates for 2 hours a day. So for people that don't know, he's an incredible writer of really profound, detailed. His book, one of them, Sapiens, is basically how we arrived at this stage of humanity. So starting from, Homo erectus or whatever it was, the first one, and how we get to now. And then the next one, Homo Deus, is how we evolve from Homo sapiens, which is us now, into Homo Deus, which is where we're integrated with machines and we're more godlike, Deus meaning God.
And it's beautiful that he brings in different kind of research. He doesn't say this is the way. So this is one way we think about it. There's research. This is another way. And he doesn't claim any final, ultimate, justified knowledge. No. He just lays it out in such a so fascinatingly detailed that he brings in examples from everything and say, so an example of this would be in the Afghan war of 1979 when blah, 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 and this happened. And then he'll bring in another example. It's like one of those books where you have to read it 50 times to be able to fully comprehend everything. But anyway, he was saying that he meditates for 2 hours a day, and he's done, I can't remember if he said 1 month or 2 month silence retreats. So doing nothing but just meditate. And he said every day he meditates for 2 hours. And there's me saying I'm too busy to meditate for 10 minutes. And I'm like, this guy who's writing these absolute whopping masterpiece books, and he can do it for 2 hours a day. And I'm like, right, come on, Connor, sort yourself out. You can do 1 day without technology, or you can do 1 day of meditating, but... Or you can change your excuse.
Or I can change my excuse. Yeah. Instead
busy
of saying,
isn't the one that you should be using, actually.
Yeah. No, I try to remove that from my vocabulary of I don't have time is I haven't made time yet. Or
this is not important for me sufficiently to make time for it.
Yeah.
I truly believe everything is a matter of priority. And I don't want to do Vipassana. That's not for me. I'm a social person. I probably will cry and die of misery and grief if I do this for a day or two.
But maybe for the extreme social person, it would be more of a challenge, because it's not really that much of a challenge for someone if they hate talking anyway. No,
but I had my challenge. I found my inner introvert through COVID time.
Yeah.
I was locked in a studio apartment with a beautiful view of the sea in Israel, which was great. I had my job, which was very exciting and challenging at the time. I had my partners to talk to online. And then I had my beautiful books and Netflix to watch. So I found my inner introvert, and I spent a lot of time with myself. It was great. But I don't do meditations. I understand it's a working process to try to meditate. But my meditation is ballet classes, actually.
Oh, you do ballet?
That works like magic for me. Because the moment that you start hearing this music, you're by the bar and you hear this piano music normally, and you have to concentrate on your body, exactly what you feel and what to release and what to contract. And you're into the music, into your body, and into the exercise. When you manage to do it properly, when you can really flow into it, and in the end you manage to stay in a balance and relevé for a few seconds even.
Yeah.
it feels like eternity, like you can live in it. And this is, for me, this is my complete nirvana. This is my meditation. That's why I clear my head. I have zero other thoughts. I am just in the moment.
That's amazing. I think that there's something so beautiful about being able to connect mind and body in that way through whatever it is, if it's meditation, if it's yoga. I have to say I've done yoga many times and I've never achieved anything other than irritation. I find it irritating. I do it all the time because I know it's good for you, but I've never achieved any of the mental benefits that people purport.
I really connect to you on that, and I thought I'd fight it, so I went on yoga retreat 2 years ago or so. And in this yoga retreat, I understand my intention was to reach this mental peace, meditate, and to do yoga without being irritated. Because physically I can do it, I'm very flexible. It's the mental state that is problematic. But I ended up, by the end of the first day, not even second or third or fifth, I ended up convincing my whole fellow class of yogis to break out of that villa, go find wine, and have philosophical talks on the beach with the wine, and that will be our spiritual awakening. I actually managed to convince them. So I appreciate my persuasion skills, but it wasn't the point. The next day, my whole class of yogis were all very hangover for the morning yoga class, and the instructor wasn't very happy with me.
Yeah, yoga's one of those strange ones, and I know that stretching releases serotonin, and that's nice for people, and it can make people feel happy. And I have experienced some calming effects from it if I do it at night, but it's not really yoga. It's more just like stretching before bed a little bit, and that can feel nice. But I want to develop some sort of dance practice to develop that mind-body control and get into that state you reached, because I've reached something similar to that once. Have you ever done ecstatic dance?
No.
So ecstatic dance is basically, the idea is that it lasts for about 2 hours or something. There'll be generally a DJ or maybe some live music people playing, and they'll play a whole set of kind of strange music and cool music though. The times that I've heard it, I've really enjoyed. But the idea is that you're not supposed to be trying to dance in a cool way or follow any pattern or anything. You're supposed to just move in whatever way comes to you. Just move. If that means just flapping your arms about or whatever, or shaking your head, or just being weird, just not thinking and just doing any movements that need to come out of your body, just doing that. And when I first did it, for about the first half an hour, I was hating every second of it because you feel so awkward. I hate dancing anyway because I feel awkward and I'm not good at it. And then after about half an hour, and your mind's racing around what am I doing? This is horrible. What am I doing? Oh my God, 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 repeatedly. And then after about half an hour, I was and I just kind of relaxed a little bit. And I was like, okay, fine. Other people are just doing their stuff. No one cares what I'm doing. Let's just do stuff and just flap about and be a little flailing fish. And eventually then I ended up sat on the floor, meditating for a little bit. And then I ended up crying. And I had what I would say was a mild psychedelic experience. It felt like a low dose of mushrooms or something. And I was kept having these thoughts you need to forgive yourself, stop being so hard on yourself and all these things. And I started crying. And then afterwards, I kind of zoned back in. And afterwards I said to the DJ, I was was there a song in there saying, I think it was saying forgive yourself in Spanish, perdónate.
And it triggers you.
And I subconsciously had obviously picked that up, and it had triggered me into feeling these feelings and then crying and then feeling really nice afterwards. And I was wow. Because when you do something like that and it kind of works, you're oh, this is so cool. And I've been invited to a few events, but I've not gone to one of them. But I've not rushed back to do it because obviously I've still got in my head that first half an hour. I'm
But did you try it again?
No. Oh, I did try it one more time, but
Did you have a similar effect?
No, because I didn't. I was there kind of hanging out and there was ecstatic dance going on, so I wasn't fully committed to it. I'd been the time before I was 100% committed to this. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to try it as hard as I can. But I will go to another one of them, and I would like to try it again and just like get used to just being an idiot, you know, and just like flapping about, because like I used to just go to clubs and just stand there awkwardly not dancing because I just felt too awkward. And I feel like loads of people do that, like especially like British people anyway. British people just cannot dance. You go to other countries and people are pretty good at it, but
everybody's, kind of similar, I think, in this direction. But there is something I want to recommend you, because I don't know if I can do the ecstatic dance, because I used to be a dancer before political and PR and everything else. And so the only dance that I managed to do, which is not very aesthetic and symmetrical, which, as you imagine, ballet and everything, is very symmetrical, very aesthetic. You have to have full awareness. How do you look when you dance? You have to make it properly, with the breathing, with the body, with all of that. So the only one I managed to do, which is not symmetrical and aesthetic and beautiful, my very dear friend, she's a choreographer and a dancer and performer, Anat Grigoria, she convinced me to try this class. There is a kind of new genre of different genre of dancing developed in Israel by Ohad Naharin for Israeli dancing band. It's called Batsheva, and the style is Gaga. I don't know if you heard about it, but in my knowledge, it's spreading around the world. So I tried their classes. So one of Batsheva dancers would come to the studio and teach it for 1 hour. When I first arrived there, I believe I have some commitment issues, and I realized it when I came to this class. And the instructor said at the beginning, you can't leave and come back from this class. We started together, we will finish it together. It's just 1 hour, okay? But in my mind, I was thinking, oh no, I don't have the liberty to leave and come back if I feel like, because I didn't know this class. But I realized if I was freaking out so much about 1 hour of commitment, that I can't leave the class, I might have some issues, right? Yeah. So, but I did it. I convinced myself to stay even though I was angry. And this is an amazing journey. It's an hour of a journey. But it's a bit different from what you said, because you said you just flap around whatever you want to do. And here, there is music, and the dancer leader, I don't know how to call it, instructor, leads you through it. Basically, it's a guided meditation through your body.
Ah.
At times he can say, now you would feel your joints, only the joints, and feel all of the joints on your body. So you start moving and you start remembering what are the joints you have, and you start moving them. Then he would say, and now you have to make your way through, the room is filled with honey, and you have to make your way through honey. And then you're making it. And he guides you through your body, through some body imagery, through nature. Now you're water, and now you're a tree, and now you're going through transformations. And in this way, you work with your whole body, you deconstruct the different parts, and it turns into this amazing experience where you're super connected. You don't care how you look, because everybody look very weird in this class, except for the teacher, of course. But you truly connect to your body, and you live through your body. And this also is a really great experience that I can recommend you to do.
That does sound like something I would enjoy.
Very much so.
Enjoy is the wrong word, but it's something that I think I would benefit from.
No, you actually enjoy. I believe so.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I do like it when I'm being told, like, focus
What
on
to
this,
do.
focus on that, focus on this. Like, it's much less stressful than trying to think of it yourself. And like, I don't, in ecstatic dance, I don't know if it's necessarily that you can't do nice dance moves. I mean, I certainly cannot do nice dance moves, but maybe someone who knows how to do nice dance moves, it's just, the idea is just like doing whatever comes to you. You know, that's the point of it. But how do you spell this thing you're talking about? Gaga. Oh.
Just like that.
I'll give that a go. Have you ever heard of Bhutto?
Yes. That's my next one to try.
I went to a, I can put you in contact with some people if you'd like, because I went to this Bhutto event here, and I didn't know what it was. I just I knew the lady running it, and so I just went along to the event, and I brought my girlfriend, and we were just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I wasn't freaked out, but I've been to a fair few kind of weird events, and I knew it would be something quite weird, just because I just knew the lady, and I knew it would be something strange. But my girlfriend hadn't been to kind of weird events. She thought she was going to see a dance show. I thought I was coming to see a dance show, basically, but I knew it'd be some sort of strange, contemporary interpretive dance or something like that. But people who don't know, Butoh is like this weird Japanese dance where it's almost like death and rebirth at the same time, and the people are doing they're painted really kind of horribly.
Supposed to be a very raw conditions of raw stages of life.
Yeah.
It can be birth, giving birth. It can be pain. The moments where you're most raw and authentic.
Yeah, and the people in it, they report that when they practice at it, they can get into these totally out of these world like states of consciousness. And one of the guys I was speaking to was saying that he was like totally, because you have to basically like feel everything and get involved with the earth and basically like submit yourself, remove your brain and submit yourself to the movement and what you're doing. And a guy I was speaking to that saw the event, he went with the Butoh people to this festival in Italy, I think it was, and he was like doing it with them, and he said that he was like basically out of his mind, and he was ended up just like eating dirt on the floor. And then there's some people that they get into these crazy states of consciousness, and then they spend like a week coming back to reality.
No chemical instances involved.
I mean, maybe some of them do use some chemicals, but that's not the point of it.
Sure, I'm just saying that might explain that they had some troubles to get back to their conscious reality.
Yeah. That's what I thought as well. I mean, I know that the guy was
mushrooms, or I don't know, whatever other substances. Like, oh my God, Butoh, I just left my consciousness elsewhere. How do I find my way back?
Yeah.
You eat less mushrooms, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't tried them, but that's how I imagine it.
Yeah, I mean, the guy I was speaking to, he smoked a lot of weed, I think, but maybe some other stuff. But it did get me thinking: can you get to these states without anything? And I'm sure you can. I mean, you certainly can. How difficult is it? Can only certain people reach those states? But that kind of fascinated me and made me want to try it. Like, because I'm somewhat obsessed with altering consciousness.
Have you read Castaneda?
Yeah, I've read.
So the debate about his books is whether all the things that he's describing is only possible through drugs. And some even say that he propagates drugs, but the others say no, he propagates altering consciousness. It can be also achieved without, but it's just much harder and longer work, and people want a shortcut. That's why they take psychedelics, in my understanding.
Yeah, this is something that I think about frequently, because I think that for people who don't know, Carlos Castaneda, he was like an anthropologist in about the 50s, I think, and he went from the States. He must have had like Carlos Castaneda. He must have been like a Latin American parents, but he went down to Mexico, and he basically ended up meeting this shaman there called Don Juan, and a shaman basically is like, what we would think of a witch doctor being like, and living sort of in the kind of jungly area.
And he's guiding him. Don Juan is guiding him towards taking him on this spiritual journey.
Yeah, of sort of teaching him how to become a shaman. And they talk about a lot of crazy things, such as transferring your consciousness into animals, being able to like pass through water, like transfer your consciousness through water, going on these crazy journeys to other places in their head, and basically like moving their body from one place to another. But the way they talk about it is if it's happening. Like, I think the end of the book that I read, I can't remember what the name of it was, but he was basically saying that he talked about it, and then he was like explaining all these crazy things that were going on. And then he was like, and then I woke up in my bed back in America.
Oh, I didn't get to that part.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different books that he's written. I got one in Spanish and I got one in English. But yeah, but it like you're saying, it just makes me think, like, is this all drug induced? Because you definitely can reach those states without, like if you practiced meditating loads, then you could reach those states, I'm sure. But
if you practice what, sorry?
Meditating a lot.
Oh, just meditating. I don't know. But just for you to know, we are both in Barcelona. We're based here now, right? So when you have progress with this, do let me know. I don't do drugs, and I'm very interested in altering consciousness. So I want to learn about it, and I would like to hear about it. And I have one anecdote which linked us actually back to politics. One of the candidates I didn't work for, I tried to, but I didn't work out for reasons you will understand now. I was approached by, I'm trying to put it somehow normally, without revealing who it is, but also without. I was approached by one of the politicians.
Okay.
To work for him, her, them. And we had the discussion and it was all good. And I wasn't a big fan of the direction they were going, but I was thinking, okay, it will be okay for this time in between the elections. So it was quite far. It was 4 years to elections just after consequent ones, right? And I was thinking, yeah, I have enough time, so maybe it was good for this time, or also maybe I can change the direction they're heading in, right? Towards what I think is more suitable and best for them and for the country. And then this candidate asked me to have this politician asked me to have a talk with his secret advisor. And I was like, okay, I can listen to that. What's happening there? Secret advisor was weird. Something like, I don't even know, Gandalf looking. And he asked me, can you please tell me what you intend to do for us to make us win the next elections and get whatever votes? And I said, well, clearly, you know, there are ways. We'll make a segmentation. We'll work on strategy for each segment. We'll implement all that in every possible direction, normal election work that you do, preparations. And then he gave me a speech on altering consciousness by NLP, hypnosis, and all kind of stuff. And part of it sounded a bit voodoo, beyond Castaneda.
Interesting.
And I think it's interesting, but I also believe that when you work in politics, in real country with real people, real votes, and you have 4 years, you can also, because what he told me was, sorry, that he can teach me ways how to alter consciousness, so people will go and vote, and the next day they will not know why they did it. But as a political consultant and advisor, I really found it between funny and sad. I told him, but we have 4 years to actually do the work and show the people why they should vote for us.
Oh, right. So you had basically, someone had just been elected, and then you had the next 4 years to try and
increase their chances to be elected, right? So this person, secret advisor, whatever he was just telling me, yes, how about for all this time, I will teach you how you change consciousness of people so they vote and then they don't know why they did it. But I was truly shocked because, in my opinion, 4 years is really sufficient time and also just fair enough. And that's what you should do. You should actually work, show them work, show your intentions, show your directions, so they will know for sure why they voted for you.
Yeah.
That's just fucked up.
It is fucked up, but I think it must be, especially now.
I'm still sad I didn't stick in to learn the techniques.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been like voodoo, but then even nowadays it's probably easier than voodoo with things like Facebook marketing, you know, like the whole thing with the US elections where Facebook was allowing, I can't remember, I don't really know about US politics, but allowing one party to get more of the votes with Facebook marketing, because if you're hammered with...
True, but I'm an old school, and also I told you why I wanted to go study law in the first place, right? So with my sense of justice, I wouldn't want to go that way. I wouldn't want to advise my candidate go that way.
No.
Because first I would choose my candidates. That's what I was doing. I was choosing them according to my moral compass. And also today we have internet, and it serves you also the other way. So whatever you did through your campaign or before your campaign or what you ever did or said, it will always come back to you.
I know, that's the thing now. It's like nothing is hidden, ever. So it's like, make everything that you do genuine, because otherwise it's going to come back to you.
Exactly.
And then you're going to spend the rest of your time chasing back over it. And like, I know that it's like, as a politician, you're not supposed to make any mistakes, but it's like, really, okay.
No, you can make mistakes, but own them.
Own the mistakes, exactly. And I think that's one thing that I do actually like about cancel culture that's happening now is it gives some people chances to say, okay, I did fuck up here. I'm going to own that.
But they're not being forgiven. Cancel culture is gone too far because it's not forgiving people.
It's gone too far in that case, but it shows younger generations when they see maybe some of their heroes or celebrities or whoever it is publicly apologizing for something, that shows some humility, and then it's up to the public. It's up to the public to forgive them. If they don't, then that's unfortunate.
That is true, but with too much of this cancel culture, you can't say anything anymore. So what about the freedom of speech, which was the first and most important right we have?
Yeah, it is true.
You can't say anything anymore.
Yeah, it is true, and I don't know. It's a thin line. It's a thin line, but it's like that's always what has put me off politics, because when I listen to people talking, I'm just like bullshit. And like I was talking with another guy a few weeks ago, we were saying that imagine if instead of having like a 20-minute news clip where you have like 4 people in a debate debating each other, what if you made them have a 4-hour podcast with each other? Because you can't really bullshit for 4 hours.
They can still do it for 4 hours.
Do you think?
Yeah. Well trained.
God.
How about we make it, you know what? I'll say it differently. What I wish for all countries is that the electorate, the people, hold their leaders much harsher to what they actually promised and said and promised and do. Because people become too forgetful and too forgiving, and internet is remembering everything, and people also should. But people start to either explain themselves the dissonance post-elections when the elected candidate starts doing crap and going against everything they promised. People have to explain themselves why they voted for him or her. And they go like, yeah, because of blah, and they just forgive. People should not be as forgiving. And this will be holding their candidates, their politicians, to higher standards and really hold them to their words.
But it's also kind of like, it's more complicated than that because it's a little bit different in Israel. But for example, in England or the US, you have 2 main parties that get most of the votes. So it's like, if you vote for one of them, that means that you're for that one and against this one. In most cases, it's like opposites. So it's like, I love this one and I hate this one. So then if I criticize this one when I'm supporting them, it means that then I'm like on this side. It's like, back in when the Cold War was going on, it's like if you criticize the government, you're a communist and like all that type of thing. And it's like, so then people, they join in the team and they're like, well, oh shit, I voted for these people. And if I start criticizing them, then it means I'm an idiot because I voted for this person. It's like, makes it quite complicated.
Yeah, I know.
It makes it quite complicated.
But you know what I mean. The people
I know 100%.
People should hold their politicians to higher standard and hold them to their word. Because every country, all the people, they deserve the government they have, unfortunately, either by voting or not voting or allowing them to break their promises. Yeah,
it's very true. So we have taken a big detour there, and let's go back, which was a lovely detour, and that's the best thing about podcasts, I think, is the detours. Let's go back to the start of your career after you joined, after you went to where your friend was working. What was the beginning stages of that? How were you feeling when you entered into this world of politics?
I was the assistant of the assistant of the assistant of the assistant of the cleaner of the assistant of the cleaner, something like that. My job was to listen to the news, read the news, and then to send a summary of the news to the MPs over beeper. I'm that old.
Beeper? What, like a pager?
Like a pager, yeah.
Nice.
I am that old, you see. So, yeah, that's what we are doing. And in fact, what happened was that the top advisors for that candidate would come once in a while to our very small, dark monitoring room. They would watch the news with us, and then they would say, you see this? Some very insignificant moment in the news. And then they would speculate that this will cause A, B, C, D, E, and results in absolutely unthinkable outcome. And I would say, that can't be, and you cannot say it from this. How is it even possible? And in a week or two, it would happen.
Wow.
And I got so impressed and so absolutely overwhelmed with this. I decided that this is it. That's what I want to do. I could feel it in my veins. I was excited. I was passionate about it. I wanted to learn more. This was my vipassana. This was the longest time I wouldn't talk. I would just ask a question and listen, which is not my modus operandi, unfortunately, normally. But really, that's how it worked then.
That's right. And so do you think that those people, do you think that they had like an innate skill for it?
Yes.
Or do you think it was experience?
I think it's both. You need to have an innate skill because you need to read the room, you need to read the people, you need to have the very strong feeling about it. But then also you need to have experience to know which one of your feelings, gut feelings and analysis works out or which doesn't. They had both. And until now, there's people that are one of the top in consultancy and
That's really
area.
cool. I've wanted for a long time. I've always thought it would be, because I feel like there's so much news out there. I don't read the news. I don't watch it because I don't want my head getting filled with junk. When there's something important going on, I'll do independent research about that thing. But I don't want my head filled with what I consider to be bullshit, basically. And things which will make me upset that I can't do anything about. It's like, what is the point in knowing that? Like, 3 women and their children were murdered outside the school today. I'm like, okay, that's horrible, but I don't need to know that. Like, it's just why are you telling me that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. You know, I needed to consume the news in every possible way. But at some point in between elections, I just got rid of my TV. And the moment elections would stop, I would just get rid of every possible news app.
Yeah.
And if you need to know something, you will know it, of course, and then you would go and research it.
Yeah.
But especially after I finished my last round of elections, which was 2016, and I decided to switch completely the industry and go to high-tech and to business sector, I just stopped talking about elections as well and about politics. I used to do it at the beginning. I would go and convince somebody about Israeli politics, who is right, who is wrong. And then I said, no. When I worked in politics, I felt there was some justification for me reading about it or talking about it because I could influence it. If I came up with a different idea or some notion or heard something that might influence, so I could actually take it to my candidates and I could make an impact. But when I stopped with the elections, talking about politics felt like I'm a taxi driver.
Yeah.
And I'm chatting with my passengers, having zero influence or whatsoever. So why bother? Why fry the air, as the Italians say? So I just stopped doing that.
Yeah. It's like, sometimes you meet people and they're extremely opinionated, and it's like they need to tell you about what's going on, but it's like, sometimes I kind of think, why? Like in your situation, you were involved in that, so you know that's kind of bringing your work home, I suppose. But then you meet people who they're just angry about what's going on and the situation, but they're not really doing anything to change it. And it's like,
True.
you're allowing yourself to become angry and annoyed at the government and this, that, and the other. But if you're not involved in that world, you can't do anything to change it. It's kind of like, what's the point? Like,
True. Absolutely
you know,
true.
if you want to go and write letters to your MP or something to protest, or, you know, try and make little changes or join a political party or do something, it's like, otherwise...
You can open NGO, you can be activist, you can try to influence.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
decide to. But if you decided not to, then shut up.
Yeah, then you don't waste your time.
Exactly.
Don't let
and
yourself
others, people as well, yeah.
Because there's a lot of negativity in that world, and it's like a world of snakes. You know, everybody's trying to attack each other, and everyone's like, I don't know. I find it interesting in the world of politics that the type of people that get to the top political levels, they have to be a certain type of person, a person that is obsessed with power, basically. They have to be someone who is quite ruthless. They have to be someone who's often not emotional. And then you end up with these certain types of people who are in these positions who are all just like ruthless, quite unemotional, want a lot of power, very hardworking, and then these people are just like against each other. It's like the most like...
I don't agree about unemotional. I think they're very emotional.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe empathetic then.
I don't know about empathetic. I just think they have real, very deep emotions, most of which are aimed at how I feel, how confident I feel about staying in this chair, or winning the chair or continue, because as you said, the most important thing for all politicians is to stay in politics. This is the end game, basically. What you do in the middle varies.
True. Yeah, maybe it's more like empathy, because the higher, like, politicians have high rates of sociopathy. So it's like, because the emotional connection with other people needs to be distant, because you have to make decisions which can have a huge impact on people, and you have to basically weigh up really difficult decisions. So if you're like worrying about every single person,
Sure, yeah, I agree with you. You have to lose some amount of empathy, because you can't be on the top of it and be people pleaser.
Yeah.
You will never get to the top if you're people. You will not get anywhere if you're people pleaser. That's the first thing you need to get rid when you want to go anywhere, especially politics.
And so then, how did you then progress from being the assistant of the assistant of the assistant, and learning about the news? And how quickly did you feel that you
2
developed
weeks.
as a person?
I think first of all, in 2 weeks, I felt like I've been born in the parliament. I know everything about everybody. I know all their biographies, who their friends are, who their enemies are. I just somehow learned it very quickly. And by the end of the elections, it was probably a few months, but it felt like a few years. In elections, it goes triple as dog years. And also in the elections, the good thing I like about the elections, the campaign itself, is nobody can hide who they really are. It's such a pressure pot, how you call it in proper English.
Yeah, I suppose pressure pot makes sense.
Yeah, your true colors come out.
Yeah.
Second week tops, you really can't. You're 24 hours, super high pressure, and so it's really nice, because it's good. Because when you make friends there, it's friends for life. Because it's the true person, and you just have the shortcut to know who they are, who you can work with, who you can click with. So I think it's really important to know from the beginning who you can rely on, who can trust on in this really hard journey through elections. And, well, the first one we lost miserably. We got half of what we were supposed to get. I don't know whatever happened. I don't remember anymore. But we're all fired. And effective immediately. And then the spokesperson and the assistant spokesperson decided to open PR company, and they hired me.
Ah, okay.
I just ran there because I was feeling already that this is something that I really want to do, and that is something I should do and I need to do, because I felt it in my veins. I went to every possible course, every possible lecture, every workshop, everything. I was absorbing information madly while having experience working in PR. And in 8 months, I opened my own company. And I decided that I like the most political sphere and arts, to balance it out. So I was doing public relations for public political NGOs and for artistic projects. Dance, music, all of it. So that's what I was doing. And until in next elections, I was called upon by another candidate. And I became already not the assistant of assistant, just one step. And I believe by my fourth elections, I was already a senior advisor.
Sorry, would you mind letting me out quickly? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What's happening there?
So they just need to be let out.
So sorry.
That's okay.
No, because I'm okay. Thank you so much.
This is fantastic, because now I can have a bite. Tiny bite of sugar. I forgot.
Do you want a wee or anything?
Huh?
Do you want a wee or some water or anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I just didn't put any sugar in my coffee.
Oh, no.
Who's there?
I don't know. There's like some class on at the moment, but then Noah's walked out and he's left. He's locked the door.
This is fun.
Yeah, it's fine.
Feels like we need to make another one on dance and art and philosophy.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. It's a bit better.
Why is it also available on video?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
On YouTube.
If only I knew. I'll be doing this like, oh.
Excuse me.
Yeah, what were you saying? What you were saying? Yeah.
Okay.
And after we finish, we can retake the first question, right? Because you just referred to me as a comedian human. I'd rather have my actual job stuff at the beginning.
Yeah. What's your other job? Oh wait, shit.
I work in high tech.
Oh, okay.
I'm a senior technology partnerships manager.
Oh.
I know, right?
Okay.
I just like that. I'm a woman and I'm blonde and I have like senior in technology in my title of work.
Ah, okay.
I
Right.
learned techie words. I can say them.
Okay, so apologies for the little interruption there. We're back rolling. Why'd you look so shocked? You look shocked.
You're editing everything at the end, don't you?
Yeah, I'll edit the little.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just saying it's not live, is it?
No, I'll take out. All right, I'll take out.
Okay, great.
It's all right. We're gonna actually start again now.
Okay.
Okay, sorry for that little interruption. So you were saying, because that was going to be my question, how did you go from being just like the assistant into an advisor? But then I see that now you've started the PR company. So that's PR specifically for politicians? Or...
No, it was a public relations company. And I decided to focus not on commercial projects, but more on public, political, governmental, and arts.
Okay. And did you, at any point, have any political ambitions for yourself to be a candidate?
No.
No.
I don't have the guts for it. I really don't. I also don't have this feeling because one of my candidates, one of the campaigns, entered the room with the materials for the field, right? When they put posters out or billboards and said that the politician, don't see their face sufficiently on those materials. There would be more of the face. And that was just an anecdote, right? That was just a thing. Probably it's normal to say it and to have this. I just don't have this feeling that I would want to have my face everywhere. And I feel I deserve to have my face everywhere. I have my opinions, and I always try to choose my candidates in alignment with my opinions.
Okay.
But I don't have what it takes to wake up and have the whole world badmouth you and just say, no, it's okay, and not take it personally.
Yeah, it's a very, I always think about this, like it's a very tough thing because no matter what you do, you're going to have like
Of course, yeah.
maybe 50% of people hating you or
Yeah.
more than that. Like, even if you are trying to be the best politician you can possibly be and do the best thing you can, you're going to be hated by half the people.
So if you don't have thick skin, you can't go there. And I definitely don't have that. I would rather, and also I realize that I'm really good at this, at picking a person that I believe in.
Yeah.
And then doing everything in my power to support that person, to facilitate their ideas and their way. I'm much better at this. I'm much better at this than at putting myself in front.
Yeah. I was talking with, it's interesting what you said there about picking just the person, not necessarily the policies, but the person. Like, do you believe this is a good person or not? Should be the fundamental question, really. Because I was talking about this with my friend recently with regards to, billionaires. Like we were talking about Elon Musk and Bill Gates. And obviously they have a lot of people hating on them. But then when you hear people who have met them and other successful rich people, they basically say nothing but pure positive things about them. Yet you have random people on the internet who are like, oh my God, this person's a psychopath, he's trying to kill us and all this type of stuff. And it's like, do you believe, like Elon Musk at the moment is doing some strange things on Twitter, and saying some like weird controversial things. I think he's maybe having a bit of a crisis. But ultimately, like I've just finished his biography, and it's just mega interesting. And these people, these ultra successful people, they're obsessed with what they're doing. They don't care about other things. He cares about going to Mars. That's it. He cares about going to Mars. He cares about providing clean energy.
But he can't allow himself to be distracted by what the internet thinks about him. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect his life. And also for this, but I think it's mainly young generation, but not necessarily, that walk around saying that, oh no, this millionaires, billionaire people, they rob us from our money. That's why we are poor. No, you're poor because you've been lying on the couch for all your life. Get up, get an idea, and work hard for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an unpopular opinion.
I know. I'm fine with having unpopular opinions.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if you, as a person, if you didn't get up, get out, put yourself out there and try to make a living, really working hard, having ideas, developing ideas, then Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all of them, they didn't take a penny from you. Just didn't do anything for yourself.
Yeah, but then there's the argument, of course, that there are certain people who they might work, for example, in the UK, nurses get paid nothing. And they work really long hours, they work really hard, but they don't get paid very much.
Sure, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, but
the working conditions should be different. The paying conditions should be different. The opportunity should be different. But it has nothing to do with Elon Musk himself. Coming to, I don't know, John and robbing him from his money on the couch. No, John has to get up, get out, and try to work hard, not just physically, but also with his brain.
Yeah.
At least give it a go, try it, do it.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's like for me, I've always kind of been on the side of these people because Bill Gates, for example, he is a nerd. He loves computers, and that's what he wants to do. And then he did that, created like the most successful computer company ever, and then went on to try and do philanthropy and cure malaria in Africa and provide running water all over Africa, and he still gets hated for it. And I'm thinking, like, the higher up and the more successful you get, like a politician or whatever, even if you're trying to do the best thing that you can, you're so restricted in what you can do. I mean, a billionaire is less restricted than the politician, because they've got more money and they can actually control politicians if they need to. But it's like, as a politician, I just think it'd be a horrible job. I think it'd be horrible, but people have to do it, and that's why it's good that we have these type of people alive.
Yeah, that somebody wants to do it.
That somebody wants to go and do it, like, and just take the shit from everybody. Because I always think it must be hard as well, because I think that a lot of people, especially when they're young, they're probably filled with hope and dreams, and they're like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to change the whole world, and that's the type of person that probably goes into that type of role. And then they get in there and they're like, oh, this is different to what I expected.
I didn't bargain for
this. Like, I have my hands tied. I have to do the right thing so that my constituents are happy. I can't do this because that's going to get me bad votes. Even though I want to do this and this would be a good idea, that's not going to be received by my constituents. It's like such a crazy manic game. So tell me about how you started choosing your candidates then. Like, what was your criteria for them?
It's really more than personal level. I understand that. I know many political advisors, they work by their ideals. Mm-hmm. And they say, I would choose a party. It doesn't really work for me. Never worked for me. I was always choosing a person I can work with, the person I connect to, because at the end, you speak to this person 25 hours a day, out of 24. This is the person you connect to and communicate to more than your family and your friends.
Yeah.
So you must have a good connection with the person. You must believe that the person wants the right thing and can achieve the right thing. And then you are there to facilitate that. Mm. Of course, you can always, and I think that you don't have to, but that's what I was doing. I would put also my own beliefs in it and my own ways, because when you're choosing from the topics that are votable, that will bring your candidate the most votes, and the topics you consider the most important, you can always make the crossover.
True.
And then your personal opinion also comes into account, because you could choose one of those, 4 or 5 most top-ranked topics that will bring your candidate the votes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can choose the ones that actually you care about most or you think more important. That's how I saw that I bring my personal involvement and I make my personal impact.
Okay. So you're advising that person how to be the best person they can be, basically, as opposed to saying, I'm going to pick this party and try and push the agenda of this party. You're kind of picking a person and saying, well, I think you're a good person. I think that if you put in some of these policies, you're going to win votes with this, which is good for you and good for what I think is good.
Exactly.
Based on...
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. And I think that from what I understand anyway, that I also thought was pretty cool and also highlights the egalitarian and representative nature of Israel was the fact that they use proportional representation in government. So if you get a certain amount of votes, you get that certain amount of seats in government, which is totally different from how we do it in the UK and the US. I don't know about other countries, but I know that proportional representation is not that common in parliaments. So you can end up with, loads of different parties that have a voice in government, whereas in England we have something called first past the post, where it's you have 650 approximately seats available, and each area is one constituency, and then that area, whoever gets the most votes in that area wins that seat. So there'll be a seat for this part of London, a seat for that part of London, and whoever wins the most votes in that specific area gets that seat. So it means that in theory, it's massively disproportional, because depending on the in terms of the total number of votes that are actually given for a party, it can be totally imbalanced, because it depends on the area that you live in, because an area can have less people or more people. And so a party could get, one party could get, if, for example, the Conservatives got 51% of the votes in every constituency and Labour got 49, then Conservatives would have 100% of the seats and Labour would have 0. And obviously that doesn't happen, but it's disproportional like that. And it's one of the big criticisms of that method, because it's not representative of the number of votes that are actually given to a party.
Yeah.
And it means that smaller parties have almost no chance, because they have to compete in their area with the biggest parties. So they have to win the most votes in that specific area. So there's only certain areas which are more kind of hippie or a little bit different that end up getting the smaller parties, like the Green Party, that they get any seats. So it's they get hardly any, which is quite strange, and it must be really frustrating there. But it's cool in Israel that you end up then with loads of different parties. However, that then creates way more conflict and division. So that's the balance of these two systems. There are other political systems, but that's the balance of it. Do you want this, which is unbalanced but makes it easier to agree upon things? Or do you want every government being a coalition government with loads of different parties that have all got a voice, and then you can't agree on anything, and everybody's having to one candidate might be in this party this time, and then they might join a different party next time, and then they might start their own party, and then another person might join that party, and then you just have all this constantly changing, which seems it seems more modern. It seems more inclusive, modern, free market, a more...
It just seems so. I have to correct you there about the different parties. The idea is great. The idea is really good. The idea is all about representation and inclusivity. But at the end, de facto, the past 10 years, all elections have been over one issue only. Are you pro Netanyahu or against him? That's all that matters by now, unfortunately. But when you are 15, 17, I don't know how many years in a seat, it comes down to this. When you get too comfortable in your seat and half of the country just wants you out and the other half only wants you in, Unfortunately, it comes down to this.
So he ended up like an elected dictator almost.
Sort of, yes. And also having many smaller parties, it ends up having unproportional pressure and power in forming coalition. Because in Israel you have 120 seats, and to be in coalition, to form a government, you need the 61. And 61 is a very narrow and unstable coalition, so the more, the merrier, of course. And in order to get to the government to sign it, which happens every time with Netanyahu, parties start to bargain and say, I will sign it, I will get into the government, but I want double amount of ministers. I want those and those laws. So they basically blackmail the prime minister for issues that are important to them, to go back on his promises or to make some concessions that are unacceptable or half acceptable, just so that he'll be able to form a coalition. So the more parties you have, the more blackmailing you do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Netanyahu is wonderful and great. I don't believe in it, and I don't like him personally or politically, and I think he's harmful for the country. But with that, I think that he is facing immense pressure from all of these parties. And while one of my candidates in the past, Tzipi Livni, she topped him? She won the elections. She got more seats than Netanyahu's party. She did not form the coalition, and she gave the mandate to him because she did not want to give in to the pressure of the Orthodox parties for their blackmailing, for the conditions they were posing for her. And she was sure that the electorate, the people will see it, and they would appreciate that she did not give in to this blackmail. But people only saw that they gave her the votes, she didn't use them.
She wasted it.
Exactly. So Netanyahu saw it as well and learned his lesson. So whatever he's being blackmailed to, he agrees to everything. And then you have the coalition discipline, which means there is no representation for the minorities. They're in opposition. They can shout, they can make protests, but they don't have real power. They're not ministers. They cannot jeopardize the legislation because he has the necessary majority. And all the ultra-Orthodox and right-wing parties, their coalition discipline is steel. Is strong, is unshakable. So it's normally a very stable government, which is fantastic, but it's stable on, from my opinion, wrong values and wrong direction.
Okay. So can you... Yeah, that seems... I see what... I suppose all politics is a little bit like that. You're always getting blackmail from certain angles, but if you have to form a coalition with people you totally disagree with... Having said that, maybe having people you totally disagree with in your government is a good thing. Who knows? Like in terms of...
Yeah, but there's no disagreement the moment you sign the coalition, that's it. So it's not disagreement, just blackmailing. You taking disagreement to discourse, but it's not really what's happening. It's not really what's happening.
Yeah, disagreement through like, you still have to sort of be a little bit accountable to the people in your government, because you're still going to have to hear constantly their point of view. So it's like you're still hearing that. So I suppose it could make you a little bit more accountable. But
the way Netanyahu raised his herd is, let's just say that before previous elections, there was a golden chain with his portrait distributed among his followers, who was singing Bibi the King. Just to let you know how open to discourse the person is and the people are. When there's a left-wing coalition, yes, then every party has debate inside their party, inside their party. Central left, they're known for being super critical about their own leaders, holding them accountable for everything, discussing everything, putting it on to endless, sometimes too much of debate. So yes, when you have central left coalition, that's what's happening. It's less stable because it's much more open for discussion. Everything is up there. Everybody is accountable. Then again, it's less stable, but it's more democratic. When it's central right, or like now right and radical right, there is no discussion.
So can you explain first, we've been talking about Netanyahu, maybe people don't know who Netanyahu is. If they don't, and they're interested, I would say I listened to a podcast a while back of him on Jordan Peterson's podcast. Very interesting. He's a fascinating person. It was very difficult for me. He was explaining the Israel-Palestine thing as well from an Israeli point of view. Very difficult for, like, what he's saying makes total logical sense, but it's very difficult to understand if what he's saying is accurate for one, and if it's true, basically. But it seems like a fascinating person that has turned Israel around and turned it into a superpower in a relatively short amount of time, and basically revolutionized the country technologically, and in a lot of ways like that. However, you described him to me as an evil genius.
That's my personal opinion.
That's your personal opinion.
Yes.
I mean, that's not his like his official status. Evil genius Netanyahu.
I don't know if anybody can attribute to him. Of course, he does attribute it to himself.
Yeah.
The whole revolutionizing Israel, making it tech startup nation. I really don't think it's his personal achievement.
Yeah, true. I suppose. Yeah. But can you explain a bit about why is he controversial and what are his policies? And you've mentioned radical right there. Can you explain the difference between right and left from your perspective?
In Israel, it's a bit different than in Europe or in the States. I don't want to go too deep into this. I would just say that generally, right-wing is, by the way, now Netanyahu is the mildest of the whole right-wing parties. He used to be quite right-wing himself, but now he is the mildest out of all of this new amazing government. At the end, it comes down to right-wing sees Jews and Israelis and Palestinians as a one-country solution.
Okay.
As let's be in the happy co-living. Basically, when it is possible, in my opinion, and there are ways to do this, but it's not the best way to go. And central left normally turns towards two-state solution. There is a need for a country, for the Palestinian people, for official sovereign country, both for the and to give back some of the territories that used to be on the map before. Let's phrase it in this very subtle way.
Some territories that disappeared from the map.
They didn't disappear from the map, but if you want to go to history, we were attacked and they were taken due to attack of 5 countries. So no, I don't feel any bad for that they are now in Israel. I'm just saying that some of them, we truly don't need them. They're just a burden, and let's give it back while we are creating the other Palestinian state. That's what my opinion.
Okay, so Israel would reclaim some land that was taken before, and at the same time would give Palestine its own state.
That would be ideal solution, in my opinion, yes.
And where would these lands have to come from? Which countries would they be in now?
Sorry? That will be the Palestinian territory and some of the currently Israeli territories. But there have been a huge dilemma there, and it still is, which is territorial continuancy. Because if you look at Israel right now, so many cities and villages and towns, they are mixed. And some of them are majorly Jewish, some of them are majorly Arabic. And it's so intertwined inside the country. It's almost impossible to make territorial continuancy. And this is part of the dilemma and what stops this two-state solution, basically. Not just this, but it's one of the issues.
Yeah. So people would have to be basically rehomed or...
Nobody wants to be relocated. No. Also, I truly believe that once the state is created, majority of Israeli Arabs would prefer to stay in Israel. They have homes there, they have jobs there, they have friends there. They're very comfortable. But also, I truly believe that they need to have some alternative. If they don't like it, they can go somewhere. And so far, the neighboring countries, their brothers, are not really rushing to take them in. The refugee camp had been outside of Lebanon for 70 years now. It's their religious brothers. It's their, in every possible way, they're much more connected and they don't let them in. They prefer to keep them in this refugee camp and to continue getting money for having the refugee camp, while they could have integrated them 70 years ago and made their lives easier and better. Jordan, Egypt, anybody. It's very sad, but it's an issue.
Yeah, it's very complex. And so Netanyahu, he wants the one state solution.
Yes.
And what are his other policies that are unpopular?
His unpopular policies with the middle low class is that he continues to strengthen the position of a high class, and harms the ones in peripheria, in suburbs, near the borders. And somehow, in spite of him hurting the lower class, working class, they keep more and more voting for him. Almost like a Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, or do you think that that signifies then that these people just care about the Israel-Palestine thing and they don't care about the other policies?
They might be more prone to listen to his rhetorics and be susceptible to emotions. You know, the good thing is that I believe I can see it as a good thing. The two sides that both want for the best of the country and the people. They just see it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the right wing, that is for one state solution, they are more driven by emotions, while the left wing is more reasonable. And that's why I think it's harder to get more votes, because it's less contagious when you're reasonable. When you go and say, yes, this is the better way to go. It's really important to do this way. It reflects our values and morals. While the other side saying, it hurts my children. I need to protect. They will not have a land. They will not have a country to live. They'll die. It's their safety. So when it comes from your belly, from your emotions, it's really hard to argue with.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to argue with that. And it's just reminded me of a book I'm reading at the moment called The Molecule of More by Daniel.
The Molecule of?
More.
Interesting.
So it's called The Molecule of More by this two scientist, Daniel Leipzig or something like that. And it's about dopamine and the role of dopamine in addiction, the role of dopamine in love, the role of dopamine in politics. And what you're describing there, the emotionality of the right-hand side, of the right wing versus the left wing, is that what they are theorizing, and there's been studies on it, the studies are not as accurate or flawless as you'd like them to be, but they trend to show that people on the right wing they have high levels of what they call the here and now chemicals, which is oxytocin, serotonin, and vasopressin, which are the more feeling, pleasurable, comfortable, right now emotions, right now molecules which stimulate our emotions right now. And so right-wing people have higher levels of those molecules in them. So they tend towards tradition, stability, emotion, family, connections, those type of things, the traditional right-wing values, whereas the left-wing liberal people, they are high dopamine people. So they're constantly wanting change. They're constantly wanting progression. They're not so focused on the emotions of right now. They're focused on the future. So they're constantly trying to move forwards. And he uses the analogy of the left wing being like a straight line and the conservative or the right wing being like a circle that's continuously, it's just going round and round and round like that. And neither of those is necessarily the right way to be, because you don't want to be 100% focusing on the future and you don't want to be 100% focusing on now, which is why you need the balance of the center.
It's fascinating.
It's really fascinating, and I'm loving it at the moment, just thinking about that, because it makes total sense. But it's like what he's saying is that left-wing people on the whole, it was saying that left-wing and liberal people tend to be smarter on the whole, but less happy, because
they're troubled with the problems of the future.
Trouble with the problems of the future, and they're
Yeah.
never satisfied with anything.
Yeah, that's why they want the change. That's why they drive the change.
That's what drives the change. But constantly searching for change is
not being satisfied with
not
the
being
moment.
satisfied with
Never
the
being
moment.
happy, yeah.
And I like reading through the book. I identify a lot with the high dopamine people that are constantly looking for the next thing, constantly looking to move, to grow, to build, to change, to modify. And I know that I personally struggle with enjoying the present moment, and I put a lot of effort now into trying to do things just for the sake of doing it, just to enjoy it, and to take a moment there, because from everything that I've read and people I've spoken to, and a podcast I did with this lady who's a psychologist for the music industry, people that are high performing or end up, pushing forwards in creative careers, a lot of them end up with mental health problems because they're not satisfied with what they're doing now. They're always pushing forward. And she said, if you want to be satisfied, practice enjoying the moment. So I'm like,
yeah, but
really...
I think this not being satisfied with the moment at any given moment is the prerequisite of the change and of progress.
100%.
If you're satisfied, why move? Why change? Why do anything? No.
But of course, but then there has to again be the balance.
Of course.
Because it's like you can want to be moved forward, but then take 5 minutes to be satisfied with today.
With a stopper, though.
And then with what?
With a stopper.
Yeah.
Make sure it's 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes exactly.
Is it yes?
Is
it over? Is it over? Okay, I need to go.
I'm really satisfied with how this is going. And it's even things like when you receive say for example you get a bonus at work or a promotion, don't enjoy that promotion for too long, because that will then make you rest on your laurels and not want to progress. But don't not enjoy it and just go straight onto something else. Enjoy it for a small amount of time, maybe go for a meal with your friend or something, and then celebrate that for an hour and then move on. Yeah. It's like these little tiny little tricks.
Take a moment to enjoy it.
Take a moment to enjoy it. But just, and now my mind is thinking about this, just dopamine, boom, 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 and just the simple differences between you have more dopamine, therefore you are more likely to go on this side, and you have more of the here and now chemicals, serotonin, oxytocin and vasopressin, and you are more likely to go on this side because these chemicals are driving.
You're happy now. You want to keep it as it is.
You want to keep it as is.
What if change is bad? What if you're not happy there? So makes sense.
But it's also then it's strange because the right-wing people are you're generally not going to be happy with the present if you're poor and in a shit situation. Generally.
But what if it changes and you are in a worse situation somehow?
Well, true.
Because somehow poor people do tend, from my experience and feelings, they do tend to vote right way more.
Oh, really? Because it's not like that in England.
It's different in Israel and England, I guess.
Yeah. And because in England, it's like the right-wing party is considered to be the party for the rich people, and the left-wing party is considered to be the party for the poor people.
In Israel,
like
the opposite. Because in Israel, also right-wing is religious people. And that's a bit different.
This study also said that the religious people on the whole are less intelligent, which...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, this book, and they pulled it on, which I thought was interesting.
It's interesting, a bit controversial, because I believe it's true today. But before, it was the opposite, I think,
exactly.
Sir. Because in Judaism, for example, you were not allowed to work the land. So the children would learn Torah from their very young age, and they would develop very fast into intellectual professions. So they were religious, and through religion, they worked more on literacy, and they developed also when it was early ages in Caliphate. They were the most progressive in sciences, right?
Yeah, that's it's always been like that, from the beginning of time. The religious people have been the one recording things, and the monks are the only ones that can write, and all these different things. And
how did it change suddenly into the more religious you are, the more dark age and illiterate, uneducated, and basically torpedoing the progress?
Yeah, I think it has to come down a little bit to partly to brainwashing, partly to also, I suppose it could be a sense of, if you have this real, let's say, for example, you're really religious and you 100% believe you're protected all the time and you're going to go to heaven and all these things, you truly believe that, again, you have no desire for change. Because you're taught to be satisfied exactly with what you have now, but then...
True, but then how it was driving sciences in the Middle Ages?
I don't know, because I think that then it drove science, but then the scientists had to break away, didn't they? And then you had like
It was in Christianity with Galileo and all of
yeah,
that.
with Galileo.
But I'm thinking of Caliphate.
Oh, okay. I don't
In
know
the
about
beginning,
that.
I think that they were the ones to discover all the first sciences, mathematics, geometry, all of that. And then something happened to religions that instead of facilitating progress, they started facilitating ignorance.
I also have a theory, and I've had this theory for a while, and then I read something that, like, because basically I like to have theories and not read about them, and then one day something will happen. I'll be like, oh, that's an actual theory that people have thought of. And so, like, I've had this theory that different cultures have developed because of the local, like the native and the local, how do you call it? Like pharmacological plants that are near them. So, for example, if you live in a coffee region and you have coffee growing, your culture will develop in a certain way due to increased use of coffee. If you are in a place where there is a lot of ayahuasca, you'll develop in a certain way. You know, if you're in a place where there's mushrooms growing everywhere, or opium is growing everywhere, or cannabis is growing everywhere, then you'll develop in a certain way. And then, because I was thinking about it in terms of the UK, because the UK, you can grow cannabis there, but I don't think that it grows naturally. I mean, it doesn't grow naturally.
But I was talking only about drugs.
We're talking about things that change your brain chemistry.
Okay.
So it could be anything from tea, coffee, cigarettes, tobacco.
Okay.
Any of those, psychoactive is the word I was looking for, psychoactive plants. But the UK, it doesn't have cannabis. It doesn't have tea native to it. It doesn't have coffee. It doesn't have any of those. They're all imported. But then I was reading about how mathematics was like, it's thought that mathematics, like what we understand as modern mathematics, was created in Arabic speaking countries in the Arabic coffee regions. And one of the theories is that the increased use of coffee, like coffee obviously it increases the availability of dopamine in your blood, like the availability to pick up on dopamine, and it allows you to focus on things, and it increases your ability for tasks like mathematics. And that's one of the theories that's why it developed in that region. And then other places, as it started getting exported, then other regions started picking up on it as well. And then obviously the UK ends up getting tea and coffee and everything, and cocaine.
And cocaine.
And cocaine, tea and coffee. And
interesting.
So then I'm like, ooh, when I'm thinking about when I go different places and I try and think of like, what's their local poison, you know? And people have been brewing alcohol, for example, all over the world. But then the Arabic-speaking countries avoided alcohol, and they went on to things like tobacco and coffee. So they were very focused, and they developed amazing systems of writing. They developed amazing systems of mathematics very early on.
Yeah, but then they stopped.
But then they stopped, and that's the thing. Why did they stop? And I don't know why they stopped. But then everybody else, maybe they just started exporting it, like exporting their
Maybe then they discovered some other drugs.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe they got bored of those ones, or they had a head start because of those drugs, and then it like reached a plateau, and then
they said, "Oh, we're not interested in competing in this. Like we did our part. Bye."
Yeah, we already did.
We sign off. We sign out.
But one thing I thought was quite, maybe feel quite sad, was that in Judaism, women aren't allowed to learn Hebrew.
What do you mean?
Well, I thought that women, like they're not allowed to learn Hebrew, and they have to sit behind.
What are they learning then? What are they speaking, in your opinion?
I don't know.
Hebrew is the language in Israel.
Well, I thought Ivrit's a part of Hebrew. Like I'm talking about like traditional Hebrew for the Torah. They're not allowed to like learn Torah script. Because I've heard a few people that have told me that.
No, first of all, let's be sure. Hebrew is the official language in Israel.
Okay.
It's Hebrew and Arabic, and Hebrew is one of the official languages, so it's spoken by all, except for a few movements of ultra-Orthodox who speak Yiddish, which they claim to be the genuine language for Jews, which can't be more hilarious and untrue, since Yiddish is the language that is a mixture between Hebrew and Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, German, invented by European Jews so that they won't be understood by the surrounding, right? While Hebrew is the ancient language in which the Torah was written. So I don't know about women studying Torah because I'm very far from religious. I do my Shabbat, and I love Passover, which is coming now, by the way.
How is it?
In a week. It's actually my favorite holiday. It's absolutely fantastic.
Does it coincide with Easter for us?
It's more or less same time, yes.
Okay. And what do you do for Passover?
You don't eat yeast, which means that you can't drink beer, eat pasta, and all of this. You have to clean your house completely out of this and just eat all the other things because it signifies the time when Jews exoded. Exodus isn't a verb, is it?
No.
I tried to make it a verb. Exodused.
Exodusized.
Left Egypt, left with Moses, and traveled for a while in the desert where they didn't have yeast. So you're supposed to, yeah. But I like the spiritual meaning of this holiday, which means you need to identify, because the spiritual meaning of this holiday is just as the Jews left slavery in Egypt in order to become free in Israel, and they spent this 40 years in the desert. So this is the time of this week where you have to identify what are the factors, the people or the thoughts or the desires or your habits or anything that enslaves you and keeps you from reaching your goals, from going where you want to go. And you have to set yourself free of those people, things, ideas, habits, perceptions, so that you can be free in the next year. You can set yourself free of these enslaving factors. I love this meaning of the holiday.
That is awesome. So, wait, this has already started, the 40 days?
It's 10 days. We don't do 40 or even 1 week. You know, it starts next week. I think it's on the 6th of April.
6th of April.
And I really love, because it's also after the winter, right? So this is the time you can really take it to shed your unuseful beliefs, habits, people. You can really do this. I love to take this time for a lot of soul searching. I don't know how you call it exactly. What's the proper word for this? But to really go over things in your life and identify what is it you want to do, what kind of person you are and you want to be. Are you where you want to be, and what keeps you back? And then you just declutter and shed those things behind you, and you can enter consciously the new year, the new spring, new summer, as a free person going without limiting beliefs, limiting people, and go into where you really want to reach, from slavery to freedom in every way.
Wow. I love it. I'm going to do it.
Thank you. Yeah, join. Do it.
So what do you like? What practices do you write things down, or is it more just a mental process?
All of it. I love writing things down. I love free writing. I love journaling. I love short stories writing. I love prompts, because many times you start writing a prompt that is about aliens, and you end up realizing after you wrote a short story for that prompt that it was actually something that was bothering you, something you were thinking about, and you solve it in a way that you would rather solve it in your life as well. So sometimes I learn about my own subconscious from my writing. So I do that. I do a lot of talking to people, as long as my friends still are willing to listen to me about that. Then I return the favor. I try to make it balanced, but I find it very helpful. And in a funny way, normally I'm more of a solution finder person. I'm a fixer. That's why it makes it a bit harder for me to talk to girls, because if a woman wants to vent, my initial intention would be, let's fix it. Let's find solutions to their problems.
Yeah.
And my girlfriends know it, and they just cut me immediately and they say, no, I just want to complain. I want to talk, and you shut up and listen. I say, okay, I'm here. So then I have to listen and just nod, but not find solutions. Because the other thing that we do as women, normally I think it's women, while you're talking about your problems, you find the solution yourself, or
Yeah,
you already
yeah.
know it. You just need to talk it through.
Yeah, this is something that I only learned about a year ago, and I learned it from this book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which is an amazing book.
I
You
read it. It's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that makes so much sense.
I was very
because
surprised about the other side.
the
Yeah.
other side, and I was like, this makes total sense why women just moan and they don't want a response. They just want you to listen. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, this is easy. I can just let my girlfriend moan and just say like, oh yeah,
Yeah, you're not
yeah,
expected to
true.
find solutions.
Yeah,
And if she
yeah.
wants, she will tell you.
Yeah.
What do you think? What will be a solution? But unless you're asked, don't. Just don't.
Just basically just agree with everything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, good point. Yeah. Oh, that sounds horrible. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. And that's all you have to do. And I was like, oh my God, because it used to frustrate me so much. Like hearing someone moaning,
And
the
you want to
answers are
help.
clear.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
why are you moaning at me about something so obvious? And I'm telling you the answer, and then you're getting angry at me. I'm like, I was like, God, why have I only learned this so late in my life? Like that should be on the curriculum at school. Like just teaching you this book, like that men and women are like men and women on the whole. Obviously there are differences between the genders and whatever, but on the whole,
Yeah.
they have very specific differences and they view things very differently. And I'm like, this makes life so much easier.
But now I have an older brother, so I basically grew up with him and his friends. And then it was easier for me to make roles for myself, more guys friends than girlfriends. And now I have very mixed habits and mixed thinking. So on one hand, I'm a bit more of a guy in this. I'm not a multitasker. I'm one tasker. I take one task, I do it properly till the end, then I can move to the next one. I really cannot do this whole multitasking thing, which is supposed to be a female thing. I used to do this with fixing instead of listening. So my girlfriend had to teach me how to be a proper woman in that. And now I'm loving it. So I really have this gender confused behaviors at time.
I think it's I think that like what you said about having the older brother, like I had two older sisters, and then you spend a lot of time, you know, with the opposite sex, and then I always felt way more comfortable around women when I was growing up, and even until recently. But I think it's really useful to learn that, even if at first it's a bit confusing because you're kind of like almost turned the wrong way around.
Yeah.
But then when you can kind of unlearn that and turn yourself back around the other way, you still have the knowledge
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
what it's like to be able to be fine in the company of the opposite sex. And then it's almost weird, like learning how to interact with your own
That is very true.
sex.
That
And
is
like
so
it's something
true.
I've
yeah.
noticed more recently, like because I used to play rugby for like my whole growing up, like from 11 to like 21 or whatever, and football and stuff before that. And obviously going to school, you're around loads of guys. But then since I've been here for the past ages, a lot of my friends were girls and gays. And then I didn't have like a solid male friendship group for quite a while here. And then I started feeling myself just kind of becoming more womanly, basically, because you're around loads of female energy all the time. And then now I'm back playing rugby, and it's like so nice to be back with some just like solid masculine energy where like they just love talking about rugby and like work and rugby basically. And I'm like, and so, like, do you know what I mean? I'm not like that obsessed with rugby. I don't really know. I like playing it, but I don't really know anything about it. But these guys just love rugby. But it's just like it's nice being there and then just like them talking about that and I don't know. I've been thinking a lot just about you got to dip your toes in the different sides, you know. And if you're a person who hasn't spent much time with women, just go and hang out with some women for a while and get used to that sort of.
Yeah, but if you
energy.
haven't spent much time with them, it will be hard for you just because it'll
Yeah.
be clumsy and awkward. And
Yeah.
everything you would say would be like, what?
But I also find that, like, on the whole, I always used to be like concerned about being awkward and coming across as awkward. Then I realized men are awkward. Men are really awkward, and on the whole, women are much better at hiding their awkwardness.
True.
So like it's much easier to talk to a woman because they won't make you feel awkward. Whereas two men trying to talk to each other for the first time, often it's just an awkward conversation because both people are like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know
how you guys
on.
do that.
I don't know what's going on. So another little detour there, but back to the crux of the matter, Israel-Palestine.
Yes.
What's going on? Why are people so unhappy? And how accurate do you think that the external image from outside of Israel is of Israel and of Palestine? Like how close to the reality do you think that the perception is?
I think there's nothing to do with reality.
Okay.
When I read Israeli news and I see that there is, for example, 2 Hamas warriors run through terrorists, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Run through their tunnel, go to Israel and stab a family of 6 in their sleep.
Okay, so explain who Hamas is quickly.
For example, right? I'll just give you an example, and then Hamas warriors are in Gaza. They dig tunnels at times. Then Israeli army discovers them and blows them up. But they use those tunnels to smuggle terrorists to Israel or weapons into Gaza, right? That's how it's used. So, for example, when there is an incident, which is a true story, 2 terrorists infiltrated to Israel through this tunnel, went to the nearest settlement village and stabbed a family of 6 in their sleep, including kids and a newborn baby. And they were killed, of course. When they were found, they were immediately killed by the army. And the headlines in all Western news is 2 Palestinians killed by the Israeli army, and nothing about why was it and what happened. I see it as there is nothing between the reality in Israel and how it's been represented in the Western media.
Okay. I'm just going to put this a little bit.
Okay, and I can give you another example. When there was Gaza war, I don't remember which year.
So can you please explain to people first
Yes.
about Hamas, who you've just mentioned, and also Gaza? Like,
I'll leave the explanations to you. The background. Yes, let's do that.
Sorry, what I understand, Hamas is they're a Palestinian political party, but they are linked with like military action, basically. So Hamas is in power, I believe. Are they
They're in power in Gaza, their methods include military, paramilitary operations, terroristic operations. So blowing up objects in Israel, killing people, stabbing people. They believe in every possible terroristic way of achieving their goals.
Yeah, and so from what I understand as well, they're in conflict with the other Palestinian political party. They're almost in like a civil war within Palestine
as well. There is Fatah in my best memory, when Palestinian people in Gaza voted for Fatah as their leading organization. Hamas people took the Fatah people and just threw them off the roof, sending the message that there will be no other political party or any other ruling party other than the one leading with the fear and terrorism.
Yeah. So within Palestine, what's the public opinion of Hamas? Are they ruling with terror, or are they sort of respected?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no way of knowing. What I do have a way of knowing is that, again, as we were speaking about the media, right? And the example I wanted to give you was, I don't remember the years, there was an on-the-ground operation of Israel in Gaza after the escalation and many terrorist attacks. And the crew of French journalists from 24 News, they were sent to Gaza for a week. And there they saw that they went to the hospital with their cameras, and they saw that Hamas terrorists, they were hiding their weapons inside the basement of the hospital because they wanted to provoke Israeli forces to blow up the hospital, which they didn't. But this TV crew went and made a report, which they didn't air. They haven't aired yet. They only recorded it, that Hamas is indeed hiding weapons inside the hospital, and they are using children as their shield so that they won't be bombed by Israel, because they would just put children in front of themselves, really using that as human shield. And that day that they were supposed to air it for the France News, the cameraman and the presenter, Anka, they had a knock on their door in their hotel, They were taken from their rooms with their paper bag on their heads into some basement, and they were threatened with the pictures of their family in France that if they ever air this episode, their families will be killed. So they completely deleted all of this evidence and all of these reports. And then they started airing reports in favor of Hamas. So then when French people or European people tell me that they trust their journalists and their media is fearless and would rather die than bend their values, I know for sure and for first hand that is not true.
So how did you come across this information?
Because I made friends with this crew, and I saw them before, in the middle, and after. They were calling me from Gaza. They would call me, and I would hear the launch of the rockets, which would be behind their hotel, because Hamas people would come and would try to launch it near their hotel of the foreign journalists to provoke Israel to respond and to kill some of these journalists potentially, so they could make it bigger news. There was absolutely terrible situation, there was terrible time, but this story I know at the time that it happened from the first hand.
Yeah,
They were terrified, they were absolutely terrified, but of course it doesn't matter what their values are, how much freedom talk they want to make, how much authentic they want to be. Of course the family comes first for everybody. I don't judge them for that.
No, I mean,
Completely not. Nobody can judge them, of course.
Family
I'm just saying this as an example that people should not be as blindly trusting their media sources, even if and when they know that they're normally truthful, ideologic, and authentic, because there can be different circumstances.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's two sides to every story, and that's why I've been particularly interested to talk about this, because it's so easy to jump on the bandwagon. You know, you see things everywhere, free Palestine, and I don't know, again, I don't know whether that's right or whether that's wrong or whether they need to be free or not, whatever, I don't know. That's not for me to kind of decide, but it seems like everybody jumps on that. And I'm thinking, like, when I hear people talk about it, I'm thinking, do you actually know anything about what you're talking about? Probably not. Do I? No, not really. And like, you know, it's to understand what's going on. Number one, you probably need to go there, which is almost impossible. You need to spend time. You need to know people on both sides. You need to talk to people. You need to understand the politics of the countries. You need to understand the history. To be able to give a real solid, accurate, like, this is right, this is wrong. And I'm like, that's going to take months, years
Of course.
of research that no one is going to do. So to just jump on board and say, okay, free Palestine.
It sounds good. It makes
sounds
you feel a good person.
That's part of the thing. And it's like, with all the causes, and again, I want to make it extremely clear, I'm not saying I'm against free Palestine. I'm not saying that either. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, when you hear these type of, like, movements or buzzwords, you know, Palestine is the buzzword, and everyone is like, well, I'm for Palestine, because that makes them seem like they're part of this, like, revolutionary crew of people who are, like, amazing and doing the right thing. When in reality, it's more complicated than that.
Of course.
And it's like...
It's kind of saying, I want peace on earth, and I'm pro-peace on earth, and I'm against not peace on earth. Great stuff, all of us are. But this is so flat, this is so simplified, this is so simplistic and wrong. How about we go to the core of it and try to understand and help it? I see it as I spent 10 years of my life working in politics for mainly left-wing leaders, heads of opposition. And so I see it as I gave 10 years of my life to try to help Palestinian people, to help them have their country, to help change the laws, to help the real process. And when I walk around in Barcelona and I get blamed by a Pakistani shop owner that I go and kill Arabs every day, I'm sorry, but he did nothing in his life to help his own brothers. Well, I did. I don't accept being blamed for this.
Yeah.
And that's part of this also hypocrisy. When you meet a Syrian person, normally you would say, oh, your government was really bad. I'm really sorry. Come, let's comfort you. But when you see an Israeli, you assume that they are supporting their government line, whatever they are and whoever government is. You just say, oh, no, you're probably an asshole. Come, let me beat you up. That's a hypocrisy. Complete and absolute. It's unjust, unfair, and it keeps going on.
Yeah, and it just exacerbates the whole, like, anti-Semitism, I suppose.
It does.
That, like, because obviously there are going to be some people, probably lots of people, who are like you say, pro-Netanyahu, pro-one-state solution, and ultimately probably pro-bombing. And there's going to be some people who are like that, but there's going to be a ton of people who are not. So it's not, I don't know, I've always felt sorry for Israelis because when you see them around, you can see that they're just being judged nonstop, basically. And you can hear that. And I also wanted to ask you about the, what do you call it? Compulsory military service.
Yeah, what about it?
That's something you have to do from 18 to 20, right? Because I didn't realize that was a thing. And I found out about that when I was in South America. And there's a lot of Israelis that are in South America. They seem to love Peru as well for some reason.
Because when they finish the army, they take a year off and they go travel in South America.
Yeah. It's just like the thing that people do, and you get like a payout, don't you, afterwards, or and they do it. But then I was just thinking, like, shit, all these people have spent 2 years doing like military training at the age of 18, and like I can't remember who told me it, but they were saying that as part of their training, I don't know if you experienced this, but as part of their training, they were basically sent to the wall to like launch insults at people on the other side, and it had like really messed them up.
Who told you this? It sounds completely insults.
Yeah, to basically like to abuse the people on the other side.
Why
to
would anybody do that?
To like it's to like, I suppose it's like to like dehumanize the people on the other side.
No, that's not something happened. No. I don't know who told you this or why.
But it was an Israeli person.
Yeah,
so maybe
Israeli person could have
experience.
been deluded. No. That would never get approved, authorized by anybody or anything, because why would you want to escalate that?
I don't know. But I always thought...
They're also delusional, crazy people who want to say, to talk some crazy talk about Israel to others. I don't know why, because he wanted to feel special, or maybe I don't know, PTSD from whatever happened to him.
Could be.
But there is no role in the army that is go insult Palestinian people. Truly, no. I think the army is great.
Did you enjoy it?
I didn't enjoy it. I completely misplaced my army service. If I could go back, I would have made so much fun of it, because you can take it. It's a great opportunity for basically your transition from being a child to being a grown-up. Mm-hmm. You learn to be accountable. You learn to have responsibility for others. For me, I just did really very easy service in the office, nothing at all I was doing. I did the training. I loved running and shooting on in the training range. It was fantastic. But other than that, I was doing computers. I was in the computer rooms. I was discovering intranet and early on Linux Messenger, sort of. Oh. So I really did nothing important. But I remember from my side, the accountability and responsibility for others came when in boot camp, you had to wake up half an hour at night, and each one had to guard some absolutely unnecessary, redundant guarding of some door or whatever it was, gate, half an hour, middle of the night. So that was the moment when you wake up, it's 4 a.m. or 3:30, you really want to sleep. You have zero intention or will to leave your warm-ish bed in a warm-ish tent, but even less so to get out and half an hour sit there, wake up completely, and then try to go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to. You can stay. You can then say that you overslept or something, but then you know that your friend or your I don't know how to say it, co-soldier, you'll screw them up. They will stay there an hour instead of half an hour because of you. So basically, you need to replace somebody else, right? And then even if you would be okay to be punished for yourself that you did it, and you just say, I'll oversleep and then I'll get punished. But you screw up the next person. So from my side, that was the wake-up call, sort of, you can't do this anymore, because now you're not come only for yourself. You have much larger responsibility. And I think it's really important for everybody to be in this situation where you stop being just self-focused asshole, as we all are as children, right? And you grow into this adulthood.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, you're right. It's accountability and discipline as well. And like, you have to do this now. Yeah. No question.
And also in the Israeli army, you can take it in a few directions. You can go and make some professional courses when you are still in high school. And then you can acquire a profession. then you will be doing your profession. So after 3 years, you come out with profession.
Yeah.
Other than some other folks will just finish high school, go to university, come out of university with profession and zero experience, and they'll work in McDonald's. So this is a great professional opportunity. You can go study in university, and then you can go to the army as an officer in your profession. Again, you will finish it in a few years with experience. So you can go and you can work in the markets, having much better advantage over others. You can decide that you want to be in combat. You can go, you can drive hammers in the desert. So you can take it everywhere you want. I completely misplaced mine because I just wanted to go study, but not what they allowed me, which was communications. I wanted to study law, and I was very minded because I'm a Soviet child after all, ex-Soviet child. So of course there was no travel for a year in South America. I had to study, work. That's how the whole mentality was. So I saw it as a waste of my time. That's why I was trying to do this computer course and be there in computer room and to discover this, because in my head they're keeping me from my professional progress.
Yeah, I think that, compulsory, I don't know. I thought about it before, like compulsory, making people do some sort of compulsory training like that. I think as well for fitness, making
fitness
people,
also not bad,
for making people do some compulsory fitness and to learn how to like run and stuff like that. For people that don't do that naturally, it's pretty good. So what is the solution? What's holding back the solution for the Israel-Palestine conflict? Like, why is it not progressing?
Because it's very unclear what the ultimate solution is. As I said, both sides, I think they truly believe that each of their solutions is the right one. Just as the right wing believe we can coexist perfectly together, because there are cities with normal coexistence. Everybody is together, and you would see in the metro, we don't have metro yet. Actually, this is kind of an ongoing joke in Israel. If only we hired Hamas people to dig our metro, it would be finished much faster, because they dig their tunnels really efficient.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But when the conflict's over, you can employ them.
Exactly, because otherwise, it's been 25 years I've been digging this metro, and still nothing happens, because every meter you dig, you come up across something from Middle Ages. Like, oh, you cannot touch this historical artifact. Stop the digging. Let's get all the archaeologists and evaluate what happened here.
Oh, maybe not even Middle Ages, maybe from like 4,000 years ago.
Possibly.
Oh.
Like, really, every meter they dig, they come across something, so it's impossible to dig there. Yeah. But what I want to say is, when you do have a train or anything there, right, you would see sitting together a woman in hijab, a man with the paces, right, and, I don't know, a soldier. They would all be together in complete normal coexistence. So inside Israel, it exists. It's okay. It's fine. It's not apartheid state. It's coexistence, and it's fine.
So within Israel, the people are like Palestinian people or other people are not discriminated?
No.
Not at all?
I believe they feel some sort of discrimination in certain fields or in certain areas. Because, again, if you would go to a very right-wing area, they might have some feelings. But job-wise, opportunities-wise, university-wise, friends-wise, it's all very mixed.
And do most, so the Palestinian or Arab people that live in Israel, do they usually speak Hebrew, or do the Israeli people speak Arabic as well?
It goes both ways. Most Israeli, not most, maybe half Israeli people, they speak Arabic as well, Jews, and all Arabs also speak Hebrew. I don't speak because I immigrated to Israel, so my second language was taken already.
Yeah.
My third language, yeah.
Okay. So there's not much discrimination within there. I just want to quickly...
Of course, there's place for improvement everywhere. Yeah. But just saying that it's not apartheid. It's coexistence, not discriminative coexistence.
Okay.
Working together, living together, going to shops together, going to restaurants together. Everybody's together.
Okay. I just wanted to say, when I was in the first time I had experience with, what's it called? Besa. The first time I saw those people, like the Orthodox Jews, I was in Tottenham in London. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, probably about midnight on a Friday, I think. and I was going to like a New Year's Eve party or something, and we're just driving through that area, and Tottenham is like a really Jewish area, and I just saw these people walking down the street, and I was like, what the fuck? At like midnight on a Friday, and I just walk like loads
What
of them.
happens there?
I was like, what is going on here? Because these are people that you see in, like, to me, like I had seen in like the movies. I was like, I didn't realize these people existed in like in England.
How old were you again?
24.
Okay, that's a bit late in life to realize.
Yeah. But like obviously I knew they existed, but I didn't realize they were in London.
Yeah.
I thought it was like those people kind of like walk around in the past, or they exist in like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Israel or something.
Oh
But
my God, that's so
I didn't realize
funny.
there's whole like areas in London where these people walking around with things. I was like, I thought it was so cool, and my sister was laughing at me because I was just like so fascinated by all these people. I was like, oh my God. She's like, yeah, Connor, we're in North London. Like there's loads of Orthodox Jew people here. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And I was like, whoa. Yeah, sorry, that was a little.
No, all good.
Yeah. So then,
I get mainly annoyed when I see them in Israel, to be very honest, because I see them as how about they learn and they learn Torah and they practice their beliefs in the spare time after work, rather than doing it properly the whole day and me paying their taxes.
what? Because that's their full-time job.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
studying that.
At times the woman works a bit, at times not. Having 15 children, not working, studying Torah. I'll be very happy to study Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Socrates and having 10 kids. And how about you pay my taxes? I'll be very happy about that.
So that's like that. So that's just their job. Their job is just being one of those people.
Yes. Basically, after World War II, what happened is that Hitler burned so many religious books. So when Israel was created, there was a need to rewrite those books.
Right.
So Ben Gurion and Herzl, fine guys from my hoods in Ukraine and so on, said, how about you guys, you know it by heart. You don't need to work. Rewrite those books because it's really important for the country's ethos. The problem is, like in computers, you can't create an endless loop. You need to have an exit. What if? There was no what if, then starts working again. It's not all of them, it's not the majority,
Yeah.
but it's many.
I've heard as well that they tend to be more extreme in terms of like sexism and homophobia and things like that.
Of course,
that
very
they're-
much so. That's the conservative part, right?
Because I've heard in, for example, they refuse in hospitals. I know someone who's a nurse, and she said that in hospital, she said they're horrible to her because they don't like women, and so you're not even allowed to be in the same room with a
You're
woman.
not supposed to look at the woman or to
Yeah.
touch the woman, and
they can't treat you. You can't have a woman nurse.
I don't know about that. I don't know, but I know that they have this rule when they should not. When I was doing business there, I would not reach my hand out for a handshake because they can shake my hand.
It's very strange. So within Israel, the people live in relative peace and harmony within
Yeah,
Israel.
yeah.
So then the area that is contested is what's known as Palestine now.
Between Jews and Arabs in Israel, it's not relative; it is peace.
Okay.
Unless there is escalation in the borders, then at times also internally it escalates.
Okay.
And then it creates very unpleasant conflicts because the person you're working with 20 years suddenly looks at you and say, you're insulting my brothers and I might harm you. This is something that is not reflecting very well inside of Israel. But then again, there has to be a solution externally on the borders, with the borders, in order to fix things internally as well. Yeah.
Okay. And so then Palestine is contested. And within Palestine, is it at the moment, is it mainly Palestinians living there, Arab Palestinians?
Yes.
And then are there, obviously there might be some, but is it almost 100% Arab Palestinians in there?
And probably some European
some-
volunteer tourists.
Okay, but there's
I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't been there. I can't
But there's
go
no
there.
Jews in there.
No, not allowed.
Ah, not allowed. And so then, there's a wall around Palestine, right? No, there's a wall around. Where's the wall? The wall in Bethlehem.
I think there are walls in a few places where have been most violent incidents. Just few of them.
Because I've seen the think it's in Bethlehem.
The one that
massive giant one.
The one that Banksy, yeah.
And so then, within, if the Palestinians are in there now and there's no Jews in there, why is there a war going on? Why can they not just stay there?
Sorry, who?
The Palestinians who are in Palestine.
No, they are staying there. There is no war or dispute about them staying there. The dispute is about them having their sovereign country, for which they want half of Israel territory.
Okay.
Not even half, according to them. They just don't want it at all. So all the peace talks that have been until now, they are about the borders, what they will be.
Okay, because at the moment it's not an official country. It's Palestinian territory.
Yeah.
So at the moment it is part of Israel.
No. Israel provides water and electricity to them, but it's not part of Israel.
So it's not
The
part
territories are out now.
So the territories are not part of anything. They're just like unsovereign territory. That is bizarre. And so the people inside then, so the battle then is just between how much land
Yes.
can be divided off. And if Palestine is not part of Israel, then why is there an argument about whether it can be a sovereign country or not?
Because they don't want the existing territory that they have. They don't agree to have it just there. They want the whole thing.
So if they agreed to have that part, then it could be...
It could be a
Signed.
prosperous country by now.
Okay.
I blame their leaders, who instead of directing the efforts of and the minds of the few generations already, to how about we become prosperous and we focus on ourselves, how about they just direct all of this to Israel and to Jews, all this hatred and all of this bad feelings. But there is some hope, because in my practice, there was one peace initiative that was sort of informal, but it was great. I liked it a lot, and they hired my service for the PR. 1 million Palestinian people, 1 million Israeli people, they signed peace agreements with themselves. They wanted to make it even bigger to show that people don't want war. People want to live in peace between themselves. There is no issues between the people. The issues come from up down. That was really beautiful, and I loved the general it was general from the Israeli side and a professor from Palestinian side who were leading this initiative. But unfortunately, when they reached 1 million on each side, and we did a public relations campaign, the leaders ditched it and just went to politics. And that was the end of that peace initiative. But that
What
what
was the
happens to
initiative
politicians.
called?
People's voice.
People's voice.
Yeah.
So it went out public, and then the general and the politician, they just like left it alone.
Sort of, yeah. And
They
went
just-
to
they didn't-
politics.
they
They were saying, we'll never go to politics. We want to lead this initiative till the end. We will show. And the first opportunity they had, they went to politics. So, yeah.
But I wonder how many people are in Palestine. Can't be that many people.
I don't know.
Okay, so that shows that really people want peace.
People do want peace.
People want
Because
peace.
also the moment there is peace, I'm now talking about the Israelis, the moment there is peace, regional peace, much more, significantly more budget can go to education, to culture, to sports,
True.
to infrastructure. Now a draconic part of budget going to security.
Yeah, and that, I suppose, that brings me to my next sort of question. It's not a sort of question, it is a question. But the one thing I find strange is the link between Israel and the United States and the funding that comes from the United States, but then the portrayal of Israel in the West, because it's like the US gives Israel so much money to keep doing what it's doing, and they have this sort of symbiotic relationship of buying weapons and selling weapons, and so probably it is for profit. You know, Israel is a massive purchaser of weapons from the US, and so it's like maybe it is part of that, but then it's also like selling them that and then slandering them at the same time, and it's very odd. So what are your thoughts on that?
I believe a big part of Israeli-American relations are the American Jews.
True.
unlike Europe, where Jews always felt discriminated and a bit of the underdog, and anti-Semitism and all of that, I didn't want to stand out much because it was kind of dangerous. In States, it's not the situation. American Jews don't have all these insecurities and inferiority feelings. It's if you're a Jew in the States, it means that you are well connected, that you are prosperous normally, and probably also that means that you're influential in politics because you're prosperous and well connected. And so their support of Israel translates into political decisions. But somehow, not somehow, in my opinion, which is very poor because I'm not well versed in Jewish-American relations or anything connected to the States. Jews in States, they're either supporting Israel from the religious side because they are religious and they feel that Israel is the religious holy place, important to be, but they don't want to live there. So they kind of want to donate whatever it is and support it, but they don't want to be there from religious side. Or the other side of very liberal Jews, they don't support Israel because they don't believe in its policies. So this is a bit of the division that I'm seeing. But again, I'm not too well versed in it. So I'm sure that my vision is lacking here and not sufficient.
Yeah, because obviously there's divisions within the religion itself and within the Jewish population. But then I thought that what it seems to, from a lot of the debates and things that I've been hearing recently, is that the focus has turned to Iran. So it's like, I thought that maybe the United States is part of their reason for supporting Israel so much is Israel hates Iran and Iran is a big threat to everyone. So by having Israel there focusing on Iran, that's beneficial for everyone. Like a lot of Iran just pops up in everything that I hear about. Everything Israeli, they're just like Iran must be stopped.
Yeah, that's Netanyahu's rhetorics.
Is that?
Yeah. Whenever somebody brings up pensions and pension reform that is necessary, Netanyahu says, pension, what pension? Iran. Have you heard Iran? And then you ask, how about too many kids in a classroom, education, we need more funding? Have you heard about Iran?
Oh, so he's just diverting the attention onto Iran.
Yep.
Because I find
the few years Netanyahu wasn't in power, which was just 2 years, but it was great, it was fantastic. There was no rhetoric about Iran. Oh. Iran just disappeared from the radar of being the main threat every day to every household in Israel.
Oh, interesting. Because I find it very difficult to listen to debates because, like, with Palestinian and Israeli people debating, because the debate gets heated very quickly. People talk over each other a lot, and it's very irritating.
It's Middle East. That's the way people talk there. Like you're doing now. You say you're talking, I'm talking over you.
Yeah. But it's,
sorry about that. Just wanted to take an example.
But it's then what I hear is that people are saying, the one side will say, but we're trying to get peace and you won't negotiate with us. And then they're saying, no, we're trying to get peace and you won't negotiate with us. And I'm like, and like that's the whole narrative, is that, no, we're doing everything we can for peace and you're not. And then they say, no, we're doing everything we can for peace and you're not listening to us. And I'm like, it's almost like listening to children on the playground arguing, like, well, I said this and you're not listening to me. Like, no, I said this and you're not listening to me. And I'm like, I felt like from the debates, I wasn't really learning very much.
You don't learn from debates normally unless it's in high school.
Well, I learn
from politicians' debates, never.
No. I learn a lot from Oxford University debates. I love those.
It's other kind of debates.
Yeah, because those people don't have. They're not emotionally involved. They're debating for the art of debating.
And also, they want to get some with this debate, rather than stick to saying what they're saying. Concentrate, focus on that, and not answer any other questions. But from what you were saying, I studied a bit of counterterrorism in my university. And my teacher was my professor was one of the delegation for the Camp David peace talks. And from what he told us, that in that round and in every other round, the main core only reason for peace talks not to come through is that both sides don't trust each other to really want peace. So they would find whatever big or small reasons to drop it. But at the end of the day, neither side trusts the other to truly want peace. So they kind of don't even want to go through with it. They want to drop it at some point because they both feel that if they go through with it, they'll be screwed at some point. There'll be some sort of trap for them.
Yeah, and that's probably true.
That's probably true. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That is probably true. Very difficult to reach any sort of negotiation on that scale. There's a guy called Chris Voss, and he does this amazing book called Never Split the Difference, and
I love this book. It's
it's
fantastic.
so good.
It's
Yeah.
life-changing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I need to go back over it again. Like, I'm doing a little bit more negotiation now in my work life. But at the time I read it, I wasn't doing any negotiation in work, so I was like, it wasn't that relevant for current. But anyway, Chris Voss, for people who don't know, he was an FBI hostage negotiator, and so he tells the stories of how to negotiate anything in life. But he's bringing it from his experience of hostage negotiation, dealing in like super high intensity, and ending up like talking down these crazed terrorists in some cases, or kidnappers, or bank robbers. I think, yeah, there was bank robbers. And now he's like a sales coach, basically, like how to negotiate. But it just reminded, what you're saying there just reminded me of that, because it's like, I wonder if they have top level negotiators on either side, and maybe they're not getting the right negotiators in and all this stuff. But then maybe you have to get people who are not emotionally, like maybe the Palestinian people could get like Chris Voss, and then the Israelis could get like some other guy, and then they could negotiate the terms, and then they could come back and be like, right, we're not emotionally involved in this. We've negotiated some terms where hopefully both people are happy. But I think the difficult thing is that there will have to be major compromise, but the one thing he does say, the reason it's called Never Split the Difference, is because he's saying that if you have to compromise, then you're not happy. Both of you have to walk away happy. It has to be a win for both people. Otherwise, there's resentment, and it wasn't a successful negotiation. So it's like never split the difference, as in like, yeah, don't just randomly split it and stuff, and then both of you be pissed off. Because if it's a bad negotiation, both people will be unhappy. Whereas you need to make it a good one, and it's going to be extremely difficult in this case when it comes to land and borders and territory.
I think it will. This win-win situation will be very hard to reach in this situation, in this case, because Israel comes from a different point than Palestinian people. They're living in territories that don't have normal life conditions. They're suffering continuously, both from their own government and from Israel when their government provokes Israel and it has to retaliate.
Mm.
Israel doesn't have much choice in that. It's been provoked. But on the other hand, it's also horrible, absolutely terrible for both sides. It's terrible for both sides. My heart goes to both sides suffering. And I don't justify, but I understand that when the people, the simple people, when they have no hope, they can do every terriblest, horriblest thing in the world. I know it's not a word in English, but it serves the purpose. They are capable of doing anything, such as taking Caesars, as they sometimes do, go out there and stab anybody on their way because they're just frustrated. There's no hope. They need to have hope. Everybody needs to have hope. It's a horrible situation. Terror is not the way. Of course it's not. Taking the Caesars, going stabbing somebody random will not solve their problems. And this is not the way to act, because we only provoke Israel to retaliate more. So this is not the way. But they need a solution. The kids need to have hope for their lives. The parents need to know their children will have a better life.
Yeah, it's really difficult in these situations, because it reminds me a lot of the conflict in Ireland. I don't know if you know anything about that.
A bit.
Because it's similar, basically. Like, the British went and took over Ireland, and then there was like a few different civil wars over a space of like 800 years, where they tried to overthrow the British, and then the territory and borders changed a little bit over time, and kings changed and all this, and then eventually it ended up where there was like a sort of war of independence called the Easter Rising, and that was in 1916, and it basically a small group of people. Ireland's only 5 million people, and there's a small group within that who were like a paramilitary group, the IRA, and they managed to basically take control of some key places in Dublin for a small amount of time, like a couple of days, but it was enough to then set in motion what then ended up becoming talks to then separate Ireland into the Republic of Ireland, which had an Irish parliament, and the north of Ireland, which was part of the United Kingdom. But then after that happened, there was then fighting between the original people who had been fighting for Free Ireland, because part of them said, well, no, it's not okay that we've been given 26 counties and there's 6 counties are still remaining British. We want all of them. Then there was a civil war between the people who had just been fighting against the British. They then turned and then started fighting against each other. So they would have been like killing people that they were once fighting alongside, like paramilitary fighting. And it's like, it reminds me a bit of that, because even now, you know, there's not the level of violence there once was. They reached an agreement in 1998, I think it was, the Good Friday Agreement, maybe it's 97, and they agreed to basically lay down their weapons and stop fighting, and then after that there were occasional bombings and things like that, but it reminds me of that situation because it's like religiously fueled in terms of like, if you're Protestant, you're considered to be British. If you're Catholic, you're considered to be Irish. And then but they're all Irish living in Ireland. And then there's still distrust, and there's still feelings of resentment, and there's still plenty of people who are not satisfied with the outcome. Overall, the country's in peace, like on the whole. But it's like one of those things, it took them like basically 800 years to reach this, and it's still not the solution that they originally wanted, which was the whole of the country back. But it's so complicated then, because a lot of the people in the north, they wanted to remain part of Britain because that was considered to be more prosperous, and they felt that their identity was closer to that of Britain. So it's like...
So we just have 720 years more to go in Israel.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. There's hope. You see, there's hope. Great
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
So, yeah, it might take 720, but then I'm saying they could
be almost good.
But then, well, I mean, if you consider that the conflict started thousands of years ago, then maybe you're at the end of it.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
Maybe.
You're giving me hope. Yeah. I'll take it back to my people. Yeah. Hey, there is hope for the region.
We've been at this for thousands of years. Let's find a hope. Do you think we'll see a solution within our lifetime?
I have no idea. I go from completely losing hope to solution going to be tomorrow to losing hope again. I don't know. I agree with you that it has to be independent, emotionally detached entity. Normally, my hopes go to the European community. I would see it as they could be the ones who would supervise the process, and then also hopefully be present in the Palestinian new state to help them build it, and also to ensure peace, because one of the biggest fears is that they will never be satisfied with whatever land there would be and whatever borders will be, and will invade again. So once they have their own proper army. So my hopes are, if it's all happening with the European community supervision, with the UN, I believe that can happen. And then that can be the way for them to be focused on building the country, improving it, creating it, sort of Kosovo creation, right? Although my Serbian friends are very upset about that fact, but it happened, right? So that might be a solution as a process, how it would be, as a format. But the content, I truly have no idea. Even with all the concessions giving lands from Israel, I really don't know still if they would accept it, it will be enough, what would be with the mixed cities. There's so many questions in it.
Yeah, I think that, will we see it in our lifetime?
But it's so nice to be in Catalonia, where there was a independence protests and conflict, but it wasn't my conflict. I could be emotionally detached for a change
Yeah.
and not feel that I need to solve something or I need to feel to one of the sides and to, be broken about feeling horrible for both. I would just say, I'm sorry, guys, you feel this way, but not my conflict. So, yeah, go ahead. Let's go have wine in Plaza Catalunya.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy time when that was going on. But I suppose that I think that one of the hard things is that the UN, from what I understand, part of the reason why there's not more involvement from the UN and Europe is because...
The anti-Semitic?
Could be that. But also partly because both sides are not following international law in terms of the methods that are being used, and so it makes it difficult for other people to intervene because they can't be shown to support either side when they're doing things which are not allowed, I suppose. And I suppose that's the complicated part, and maybe
the sentiment in Israel is that Israel's actions are not being viewed or inspected or analyzed in an unbiased way. But then again, I know only one side. I cannot say about the other side.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like that. But yeah, that's the reason it reminds me so much of like the Irish conflict is because it's like Hamas is very similar, from what I understand it, in terms of like, it's very similar in terms of what the organization is in terms to the IRA. Like,
but IRA wasn't terrorizing their own people, endangering them, using them as human shields, just so that they will be protected.
But many innocent people died through bombing.
Sure, but the way that Hamas is working is keeping their own people in poverty and in danger, taking children, putting on their window when there is a war, when there is a rocketing from Israel, so that the window will not be blown up. So basically using them as human shield to protect themselves. I don't think IRA ever did it. This is a very different level of sociopathic terrorism.
True. But at that time, there wasn't the same level of like military. There wasn't, they weren't having to, it was more of like a ground war.
Okay.
They weren't having to face like bombs coming from the sky. It was like car bombs and like things like mainly like car bombs and like rucksack bombs and stuff. It wasn't the same level like that.
Okay.
Where it's like targeted drone attacks, because this is like the bulk, like the worst parts were like 60 years ago. So the technology wasn't the same.
I don't know much about IRA. I was just assuming, so I don't know.
But we've now spoken for, I think this is officially the longest podcast. Congratulations.
Yay!
So before we end, it is customary.
And now you got to the point where you felt like, I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I could talk for hours.
Oh.
I could talk for hours, but I think maybe we'll do a future episode.
Oh, let's do it again.
Because that'll be
great.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's customary at the end for me to ask my guests for words of wisdom for... I was originally saying words of wisdom to their younger self, but then I thought, no, words of wisdom out now to everybody listening.
Ooh, wisdom. That's tough.
It is tough.
I'm not a guru. I'm not studying my sex cult or anything,
Yeah.
Or maybe it can be a good idea. I can be that maybe. Words of wisdom. It will sound cliche, like really.
Doesn't matter.
What, live in the moment, believe in yourself?
Well, if you think those are the wisest words you have to say, then that's okay.
They're just cliche words. They are correct. They are true. I believe in them, but they are cliche. I don't know. Something that I can take to sell. It's a bit hard for me to think something I would say to others. I don't feel that I am entitled to tell others what to do or share my wisdom. I can say what I'm telling myself these days, what I'm about with myself. Maybe
That's fine.
Okay?
That's fine.
So what I feel with myself in my own situation, state of mind, state in life, is that it's super important to be very focused, to prioritize. Because we do have time. We spoke about it at the beginning. That people are busy, I'm busy. Everybody have time for everything. It's a matter of priorities. Mm-hmm. And if we prioritize properly for what are your goals at the moment, for what is really important for you at this stage of life, then your life will look very different, because where you put your energy, what you feed at that moment, that will grow. So I think that's super important. Second thing is very important, that we overlook our health, and then COVID showed it, or whenever, I don't know, myself, I'm a bit manly in that. Whenever I have, I have man flu, not woman flu. You know what the man flu, right? Is when you sneeze and then you're like, I'm going to die. That's it. Goodbye, world. I'm that person. So whenever I get it, I immediately understand how important it is. We really need to take care of our health, because when you're healthy, then you're strong physically, strong mentally, and then you can back up all of your decisions in life, what you want to do, and you can go full in, because that's what I do. And third most important is to connect to your true self. In my case, I am working in technology. I do touch on different circles and different concepts in my life, but it's super important that I stay true to myself, which is connecting to art, to dancing, to music, to writing, because that's what grounds me and that's what keeps me happy, focused, and alive. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this has been very fun, insightful. We've learned a lot, and I've loved talking to you. So thanks so much for coming.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That was great.
Oh, you're welcome. And we'll hope to see you again in the future. Is there anything exciting coming up in your life?
Yes, I'm flying to Tel Aviv on Monday.
Sarajevo? What?
I'm flying on Monday to Tel Aviv.
Oh, I thought you said to go in
I'm
Sarajevo.
going to see my family. I'm going to see my beloved mother, father, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, do all the great stuff, eat the amazing food in Tel Aviv, go to the beach, and yeah, that's very exciting.
Oh, that is very exciting. Well, I hope you enjoy that, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
So
thank you so much.
Everybody. Farewell for now. Thank you for listening to the Quest for Wisdom podcast with your host, Connor Monaghan. If you enjoyed the episode and would like to support the show, then please like it, subscribe, and leave a review on whichever platform you are using. This small act is a massive help and is hugely appreciated. You can find more information about all of our guests on thequestforwisdom.com and follow us at The Quest for Wisdom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for exciting updates. We also have a Patreon account for anyone who would like to contribute towards the running of the show. Finally, I would like to thank the Comedy Clubhouse in Barcelona for allowing us to record here and for their ongoing support. If you are ever in Barcelona, make sure to check it out for daily shows of comedy and performance art in English. Farewell for now.